Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast, again, sometimes, where the team members from that nerdy site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, back from being sick last week. Joining me this week, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is you and I are going to kind of give our rundown impressions on a few of the major showcases that we've had in the last week and change. We're going to talk the PlayStation State of Play from a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk Summer Game Fest showcase that Keighley did, as well as the Xbox Game Showcase that wrapped up earlier today as we were recording this. So we'll kind of share our, big takeaway games from each of those. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast everywhere you can, all that fun stuff. So Cam, kick me off. What coming out of the PlayStation State of Play, the most removed showcase from where we're at today? What were some games that you were excited for coming out of that?
Yeah, sure. The first one that kind of kicked things off for me was Infinity Nikki.
Okay.
It is very much like a cool action game based around a lot of it seems to be cosmetic choices to make for Nikki as you kind of roam through this area and do some really cool combat. I was really kind of captivated by the way that the world looks, and kind of the way that the flow of the gameplay was going on that trailer. So,
have you played any of the other Nikki games, like the mobile Nikki games?
No, never.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting thing to jump into, but okay.
I mean, it just captivated me.
Sure.
There's something about kind of like the kind of whimsy that this game has, but it's really the whimsy meeting kind of like the gameplay loop that they kind of showed off in that trailer that I'm like, this seems very interesting. This seems very interesting, and I'm very fascinated by it.
Seems very microtransaction driven.
That's my fear, but that is what caught my, it just caught my eye the way that it was kind of showing that off. I felt it more of unlockables than microtransaction. If it's microtransaction on that side of things, I will probably not be too interested in it, but if it is more about the unlockables, that sounds interesting to me. So.
Sure. I only actually have one from this showcase that really popped for me, and that was, of course, Astrobot.
Yeah, that's at the bottom of mine.
Which, of course, closed the show. As a huge fan of Astro's Playroom in VR, and then, of course, the Astro's Rescue Mission in VR, and then Astro's Playroom, the pack-in for the PS5. This is everything I want from another Astrobot. Looks like they're going full in on, big platforming fun, and the continued, let's love everything about PlayStation and our lineage and the, characters we have, and we can kind of pay homage to all of that, while also still doing all the great gameplay stuff that both the previous Astro games did. So yeah, super excited for this one. Can't wait. And since that showcase released, we've now also seen the pricing of it is a full priced $70 game. Has deluxe edition stuff if you want a couple of those extra custom avatar bits.
The custom avatar stuff. But the thing about it that a lot of people thought oh no, are you gonna have to unlock these cool skins? It's oh no, those are just to have them unlocked at the beginning.
Oh, did they say that
they specified. They specified that these are unlockable further into the game, but if you want them up front to play through the game with them,
gotcha.
It's part of the deluxe edition. But they did specify that no, you will be able to unlock these later on.
That seems interesting, because then it's okay, well then what is the value of I guess if you're really that eager to play as the Bloodborne version of Astro, sure, pay that extra $10 or whatever it is, right from the jump. But all right, any thoughts from you to add on Astro?
So for me, my lineage with Astro is I didn't play it in VR. I didn't play the rescue mission. Mm-hmm. I only played the Playroom, and that was my first experience with Astrobot, and I have become enamored with him. I think that he's the best PlayStation mascot. He has completely usurped Knack for me as the PlayStation, where Knack was really more the meme.
Yeah. Knack screams meme lord Cameron.
Yeah, that is that's.
Did you ever actually play the Knack games?
Never.
Yeah, so shut the fuck up.
Never. I heard they were bad. I didn't play them.
No, they I tried multiple times to play through Knack 1. Could never get too far. The one E3 I went to, I played Knack 2. like on the demo stations, I was like, yeah, this is just more knack, still bad.
Yep. I never played a Knack game. It was really just more for the meme than anything else. Shout out to when I lost that prediction and had to pay for your Portillos because.
Oh yeah, because you predicted that like Mark Cerny was going to sacrifice somebody Mayan temple style or something to create a knack 3. Yeah, you were an idiot.
Yeah, I 100% was like more Knack for the Knack god. But yeah, no, it was this Astrobot is playful, whimsical, and is cute and adorable. And any slander against his design immediately puts you on my shit list. Don't fuck around with me.
Tim Geddes.
Yeah, Tim Geddes. I love Astrobot. I fell completely in love with him as a mascot as when playing through the Playroom. And just like, yeah, I'm super stoked. I loved everything I saw from it. I can't wait to play that game.
Excellent. Yeah, and it looks like we're getting a lot of game. They said,
oh yeah,
like six galaxies, like 80 planets. So should be a ton of fun. I think like 150 like PlayStation characters are being honored and celebrated and stuff. So yeah, they're definitely going to have a grand old time with the PlayStation love for that one.
Yeah, if
and it just also still looks and sounds great.
If each section of Playroom is like quoting as like one of those like 80 levels, that sounds like a ton of game to chew through. So I'm excited.
Yeah, especially because like the levels in Playroom were like, like 4 stages equals 1 level kind of thing. So yeah, very cool. So what else do you have from the PlayStation State of Play, since that was the only one I really wanted to speak to?
Sure, I'll hit on Dynasty Warriors Origins. As somebody who really fell in love with the, I've always been a fan of the Musou genre, but fell off of Dynasty Warriors early on in the Dynasty Warriors games coming out of the PS2. Kind of falling off of like the whole Musou action stuff, coming back to it for Age of Calamity. Zelda Age of Calamity was... Zelda Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, to be specific. That was such an amazing experience, kind of seeing how the Musou genre can really tell these like really cool, fun stories. Having them come back and say we're doing like an Origins, I'm down for it. I'm super excited for it. More Musou games sounds really cool right now. I feel like we haven't gotten one in a while, so I'm down for it. After that was Where Winds Meet, which is like I'm gonna list a couple of these. Ballad of Antara is another one. Mm-hmm. These two games really feel like it is filling in kind of this Souls-esque sort of action combat.
Oh, you want Bloodborne? Too bad. Here's a new thing.
Well, here's two things. Both of them seem to be Ballad of Antara seems to be a bit more of like you have there's an older sibling and younger sibling, or like older kid, younger kid, sort of a feeling of like, some level of like responsibility that feels very much like the I'm trying to remember what the name of the games were. One of them came out last year. It was like A Plague's Tale. There we go. Feels very like in that vein of like older sibling, younger sibling, like taking care of them and like bringing them on this adventure. Where Winds Meet feels a lot more of a much more of a stylized action game. And then on top of that, that one is actually going to be in the next list one. So there was only those two I'm talking about right now.
Real quick, back to Ballad of Antara. Free to play action RPG. Does that give you any pause for a?
No.
Okay.
I feel like free to play has gotten into a very special like genre right now, where it is not so like, obviously the money they're going to be pulling in is going to be coming from the microtransactions, the packages, the sort of like cosmetic stuff, right? However, I have not felt like there is I have not felt like a negative side of that from a free-to-play game in a while. Games going free-to-play has had like a very bad kind of touch to it for a long time. But I feel like in the last couple of years, moving away from that into a new era where those have really just become more of like a service opportunity for these games, and is a lower entry point barrier for people to kind of like test out something new. So I don't know. I feel like it is a beige flag, so to speak. Like, we'll see how it ends up playing out. But
okay. Cool. Anything else here from PlayStation State of Play?
Yes, another thing from PlayStation State of Play was Marvel Rivals. I'm super into whatever that is putting out. It's giving me very like OG Overwatch vibes. The destructible areas seem super cool. Seeing the kind of way that people were playing it on Twitch in the closed beta felt very, very cool to see the way that people were playing and how the kind of like levels reset themselves, so to speak. Like the destructible environments sort of like reset themselves. A lot of the cool customization stuff, it looks like awesome as far as like alternative outfits. I love the idea, as somebody who's been playing through Marvel Snap, seeing variants showing up and being like a cool aspect of different costumes is cool. But also just the way that different like classic Marvel characters are coming in, they're bringing them into an approach of like, okay, well, is this like a tank character? Is this like a DPS character? Like, what does this look like? And from what I saw from people playing, it looks like it's really, really cool and inventive, and I'm super into that. So
Yeah, it seems like in addition to, of course, the IP that it has going for it, the big like mechanical thing seems to be like the team up attacks and the way that like different mix and match combinations of your heroes will, affect the makeup of the team and stuff like that. In that vein, I'm curious, did Concord do anything for you?
no,
No.
I wish I could say that it did. If Concord was more of a like single player game aspect, a la Galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy, that would have interested me a lot more. The fact that it is a like a hero shooter. We saw this trailer, we saw these abilities, but a lot of this is like, this is your Reinhardt character. This is your McCree character, or your Cassidy character. This is your, like, your analogs to Overwatch. It felt... The reason why Marvel Rivals works for me is because these are established IP characters that they're bringing into a cool game type. Mm-hmm. For you to give me, this is an original IP, but it felt very, like, it didn't feel very... unique in any way, I guess. Like a lot of this feels like some stuff is cool. Like the lizard guy has the ability to like regenerate his own health. That's cool. And he has two different gun types. So he has his fast shooting gun and then his slower, more powerful gun. And you switch between those two. Like there's some cool stuff about that. But okay, cool. You showed us like what looks like 5 cool characters, and then the other characters were also in that trailer, but we don't really like, we didn't see them look cool and do cool stuff. I don't know. Like, I would need to see more to try to convince me about this game, but nothing they showed in that trailer wowed me. The narrative aspect I thought was cool up until I realized that that's just an objective type.
Yeah, the dueling trailers that they had for like, here's the story trailer to like introduce these characters to you, fun little tone piece, and then as soon as it's like, well, here's the gameplay, and it's 5v5 shooter, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, this is never a game I'm going to be interested in playing.
Yeah.
I am interested in the thing that they really touted of, like, we're going to release, like, new cinematics in-game each week to, like, continue introducing you to the story of this world or whatever, and it's like, oh, so they're doing the Blizzard, high production value stuff. How long is that going to last? What is the the level of quality going to be in those weekly drops? I think that's the like maybe the most interesting piece of this. But yeah, it's for a game much like Overwatch that I'm never going to play. So
and the big thing about the character trailers for Overwatch is these are trailers that came out very infrequently.
Yeah,
and it was honestly the biggest fuck up Blizzard had about Overwatch is you had a ripe world that people wanted more out of, and you just didn't fucking do anything with it.
Yeah.
And you had this compelling narrative around these characters being this like response team. You had you had a ripe storytelling element, and your teams did nothing with it. And then when you're like, hey, for Overwatch 2, that's going to be like a thing. We're going to do and then you. Like, this is why I haven't touched Overwatch 2.
We're going to have a PvE campaign where we're going to, like, flesh that out. And, just kidding.
Oh, we actually canceled that, like, we actually canceled that 6 months before the game came out, and but lied to everybody and said that it was still coming, you just had to wait. Yeah, and, like, oh, that's why you went free to play, because you couldn't justify a price tag attached to it to get people to move on to the new game. Oh, you decided to shut down the old servers because yeah, it's everything that made me like not like the bad taste in my mouth from just being lied to from Blizzard for like almost a year.
Yeah, and all the stuff like everything, like all the skins and stuff, all the loot boxes people bought in Overwatch 1, those are just like nothing now, right? They didn't carry over to Overwatch 2?
No, yeah, no, I don't believe. I believe they. I'm trying to recall.
Did they
if
go
did or not.
free Full Guy, which is like the whole thing at the end of the movie Free Guy is Taika Waititi's character basically being like, yeah, we're launching the second game, and there's like no backwards compatibility to it at all or anything like that. Yeah. Anyway, Overwatch, big old.
Sorry, they did carry over.
Okay.
Yeah, your Overwatch skins did carry over with you.
Okay.
That was a big sticking point. But the thing is, they moved away from loot boxes because it turns out loot boxes are illegal in Europe, and so they moved over to just buying out the skins, and the skins, all the cool skins are like not within an easy price point. They're not fuck it, I'll buy that skin point.
Yeah. I mean that is the free to play model these days. That's Fortnite. That's not versus super versus. No, what's the one?
Multiverses?
Multiverses. That
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Like I saw people talking about like a Jason face mask for the Joker being like $40 or something like that.
Yeah,
And
it's
like,
that sort of thing
get
where
the
they're
fuck out of here.
Yeah, the thing about that I found with Fortnite is, there's something. You know what? What, that's $5 for all those V-Bucks I can buy that, but then I'll have like a bunch of V-Bucks left over for whatever. Okay.
I mean, the Fortnite selling point for me for a long time was just doing the monthly subscription that gave you like some extra stuff and a monthly like influx of V-Bucks that basically meant I didn't have to, just drop $20, at a time or something like that. So
Yeah, I think their transition from originally like being the originators of you have to drop like $40 for enough V-Bucks to buy this bundle package or for this cost for this outfit. Then moving over to a much more sustainable model, I think is like coming now into it where it's like, oh, this is a totally sustainable model. You have a rotating shop that refreshes pretty much like every couple of days.
Yeah.
And there's new stuff, like they're rotating
and
stuff
now-
back in.
Now they're also selling you songs for the game and car designs for the car one. And yeah.
But they're all at a like reasonably like, oh, well, I unlocked through my battle pass that I paid the $10 for. I got like a bunch of V-Bucks out of my battle pass that I haven't used.
Yeah.
I can drop that on like, that's how I bought like the Raiden skin so I could get the high frequency katana for my whatever skin I'm using. I like that as like a back. Like I'm not a fan of most of the back bling in the game, but the idea of like running around with like just a sword attached to my back is kind of cool. So I don't use it as my pickaxe or anything, but like it's a whole thing that makes it feel like unique and organic to my like the character designs that I like to use.
Sure.
Like I've been really amazed by how Fortnite has like really revolutionized their own model that they started out with, and seeing people not pick up on that was like for Overwatch 2 was very telling. Like now looking back at Overwatch 2 and being like, you guys let Fortnite make all these mistakes and make all these corrections and you learn nothing from it.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Fortnite to pick up the model that I've seen others kind of evolve from Fortnite of, hey, every battle pass will always be available. Like you can, if you want to devote points to an older battle pass, you can go and buy an older battle pass. So if, you joined the game late, cool, you're not missing out. Like you can still go get those old things. And yeah, it's like Fortnite obviously has not adopted that option.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah.
Anything else from the state of play here?
State of play.
Concord didn't do it for you.
No, Concord didn't do it for me. Monster Hunter Wilds is the last thing I'll talk about. Okay. Everything we've progressively seen with Monster Hunter Wilds has been like invoking like my long dormant Monster Hunter world feels. I didn't hop into the latest Monster Hunter. I think it was Monster Hunter Rise.
I believe so, yeah.
Which like at the time I was just not like I just didn't have the money for it. It came out on Switch. I was like playing other games at the time. And so I never picked up on it, even when it came to PC and PS5. I just never leaped into it. And so, but seeing Wilds, it's been like, I didn't like this. The itch is back. I'm like, I really miss running around with a long, the long blade, like the giant like katanas. I really enjoyed the 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 complex weapons of that game. Like I could see myself going back to it. And Wilds has just continued to like push that on me. And I'm like, I'm interested in this story that's continuing the story of World, of like, it's a new area, new biomes. It really is about being out here in the wilds, though. Like, it's speaking to me. So
Cool. Yeah, the Hunter never really does anything for me, but looks cool for the people who are interested in that sort of thing. All right. Anything else for State of Play, or are we good to move on to Summer Game Fest? All right, Summer Game Fest. First thing out the gate, I'll throw out there, unsurprisingly, Lego Horizon Adventures, which we knew about, or I had known about because I'd seen like my Lego people leaking it and stuff. And it's, a combination of a couple things I love. Lego, obviously, being the Lego guy, and the Horizon game. I have the, right above my head, basically, I have the Lego Tallneck, and I believe there's... I've seen leaks or potential leaks that they're going to do the Lego Mammoth too. So I imagine,
because you have the collector's edition.
I have the collector's edition, Mammoth thing. I forget what it's actually like. It's not an Oliphant, but it's basically that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've seen like leaked images of
I think that's
being a Lego design that is maybe coming out later this year.
I was about to say you're the only thing bigger than that model is the freaking loot box from Borderlands 3.
Sure.
So
yeah.
on your shelf.
It is it's a chunker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super looking forward to this. It does appear to be a different team. It's not TT Games that have done like most of the Lego games thus far, including like the Skywalker saga, but it still seems to have the Lego charm. And in particular from the trailer, I love that it is a goofier Aloy that is in line with the Lego humor and stuff that they're doing, but also, celebrating the other characters of the Horizon series. I'll be curious how they handle Silence with the passing of Lance Reddick, if he's in the game in some form or fashion at all, and if so, what that looks like. But yeah, even from the trailer where they're like, okay, yeah, you can customize Mother's Heart, the main hub city from the original game kind of thing. And they're like, all right, here's, a hot dog stand and here's a big Ferris wheel. It's like, I know that Ferris wheel set. I haven't bought it, but I know it and I see it occasionally and I'm like, I want to buy it, but I don't. But yeah, like it is fully leaning into like real Lego sets and all of that silliness. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this one and just having a fun time with it when it comes out. Yeah. Sometime holiday 2024 is what they've given us for that one.
I'm pretty stoked for it too. As somebody who got super into Lego games after playing the Lego Adventure mode in Fortnite, like that's what got me into Fortnite was the Lego Adventure mode.
Yeah.
And seeing this sort of thing pop up, I love that we're getting a more joyful Aloy. I think the biggest criticism of Aloy's character is sometimes she just doesn't feel fun to play. Like she's just not fun. I'm great. She's in like a really rough world that she's in, and she's been an outcast.
And she was an outcast for 18 years of her life or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, makes sense that she's not the most sociable person.
Yeah. Forbidden West, though, like let her character grow a lot.
Yeah.
And we got to see a lot more of these fun sides of Aloy in Forbidden West. Getting to see just a fun side of Aloy with this, it was like letting Ashley Birch be Ashley Birch about it.
You never played Burning Shores, right?
No, I still need to play Burning Shores.
So yeah, like she gets another companion in Burning Shores that like it, light spoilers, but like depending on how you want to play it, you can kind of like engage in a romance with if you want or not kind of thing. So, but yeah, like it's another case of like that really helps Aloy kind of like let her
open up
hair down and open up and be not as standoffish with the other characters.
Well, yeah, and also like there's a lot of stuff on how Forbidden West ends, like the last section of that game.
Sure. That
really lends into her kind of like stepping up and broadening herself out, and like she has some regrets to how she's acted before, and the events of Forbidden West kind of like lean into her realizing I need to be a more open person. Because a big reason why she cuts herself off from feeling a lot of emotions is because of what happens at the beginning of Zero Dawn.
Yep.
With Rost and everything.
Yep.
Like she's hurt and in pain, and she thinks cutting herself off from people will help that, and it doesn't. And the events of Forbidden West kind of like show that out. So I need to touch Burning Shore, and I need to play it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Lego Horizon Adventures.
Yeah, cool. What do you want to chat about next from Summer Game Fest?
Real quick, just to be like, no More Room in Hell 2 looked cool. That's a very like Left 4 Dead style game that was being shown off. It looked very cool. I'm interested in learning more about it when that game like comes closer to launch. It's coming out Halloween. Like, October, Halloween time. It's the perfect kind of it's the perfect moment for a game like that to come out.
There were like between like that and like a couple other games and the Blumhouse section of the Summer Game Fest, I definitely found myself thinking, wow, like I don't know, like how is there that much of an audience for horror games to sustain the amount of horror games that get made, or is it just like, in the movie space where horror games are just maybe a little cheaper to make. And so people, pour money into them hoping that they'll, make a profit on them, and like find an audience. 'Cause as somebody who does not vibe with horror stuff, there were a ton of games in Summer Game Fest, and a lot of the ones from the State of Play, I think too, that were just like, no, these aren't for me because they're these genres that just don't do anything for me. And I it's basically I see like spooky demon, horror kind of thing. I'm like, well, this is a nope. I can tune out for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, I will let you know that like horror games sell exceptionally well.
Some do. I don't doubt some do. Like your Resident Evils, your Silent Hills, no doubt. But like, it seems like every other thing is a horror game, and I'm like,
with the success of games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Slender Man, like there is a massive, especially on the PC market space, top selling games usually include like some of the top selling games on PC usually include a horror game.
Sure.
So no More Room in Hell 2 speaks to like the kind of like co-op like playability aspect that like Left 4 Dead has dominated for years. Back 4 Blood tried to throw its hat in the ring and unfortunately just didn't have the buy-in and support from a lot of folks.
Yeah.
But like there's a reason why Left 4 Dead 2 was like a top Steam game for years. For maybe close to a decade on like the Steam charts. Not sales wise, but just like playtime, who's playing it numbers wise.
I mean, I also see like this one having like a 8-player co-op, and I'm like, I feel like that's like it's sometimes hard enough to get a 4-player co-op group together. Well,
the idea that it's optional, like you can play up to 8 players, which means like, okay, that means groups of people can get into like 8-player lobbies if they want.
Yeah. But like I think of those, Kotaku articles that are, look at how low the player base for this game has gotten, just 3 weeks after launch or something like that. And it feels like a lot of times those are these types of horror games. So, but maybe that's just my own like biases kind of gleaning through.
I think it might be. On top of that, I also just like did a quick like Google search on it. Yes, I can confirm horror games sell like reasonably well, even for like indie games. And then on top of that, there is also like a lower budget production, because if you think about it, zombie assets, these sorts of assets are super
like
available.
Yeah, exactly. They're always like AA at most kind of games.
Also, horror games, like long horror games, tend not to do well. People like shorter horror games in more bite-sized experiences. Like legendarily, like people sell and make bank off of like selling old PS3s or PS4s that have the Silent Hill tech demo that Hideo Kojima made. Yeah, the PT demo.
Yeah.
That like people still sell PS4s and PS3s with those loaded on them for like pretty good substantial amounts of money.
That's silly.
It's still that popular. Like but this is kind of like where it comes into. So like yes, these games coming out, like the Blumhouse house games look cool to me as well. I don't have them on my list of stuff here, so to speak, but it's still like those still also leapt out at me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Next one I'll give just a quick nod to. because it's like this didn't have to be shown. I'm still probably gonna already check it out and play it. Star Wars Outlaws.
Yep.
The Star Wars fan in me is gonna give that a shot.
Absolutely.
I like Ubisoft checklist games enough to check it out. I know it's going to have, a good enough value to it. I had zero interest in picking up the Avatar game last year because I have zero interest or connection in that universe, but a Far Cry-esque game in Star Wars, sure, absolutely.
For me, it's the team developing this game is the Division team. So as somebody who played hundreds of hours of the Division 1 and 2, knowing that they're coming and they're taking their gameplay approach to a Star Wars game, that it's a scoundrel smuggler type game, that speaks to me on a level. Like, I am super into that. The aspects of Jedi Survivor that were not like Jedi specific, that were more of that kind of Cal Kestis being a sort of outlaw character, like no longer being like, I'm trying to survive as a Jedi, and more of it being like, I've made a name for myself as a member of the Rebel Alliance, and I am like doing my own thing out in the outskirts. Seeing a game that is in that vein of things speaks to me. And seeing what I've seen from that, reading the article that Game Informer did on it, shout out to my subscription for Game Informer, finally, like, those issues are finally coming to me, so I'm happy about that. Reading about, like, the breakdown of the preview event that they did, this game is like, yes, this is 100% like they're doing it. Like, this is the right team for this game. This is the right type of game I want to see from a Star Wars property. And having it come from Ubisoft, I can't wait for the Ubisoft Forward tomorrow. Spoilers, we're recording this on Sunday, right after the Xbox showcase earlier.
Yep.
So for me, this is speaking to me deeply, and I'm very excited to see more of it.
Sure. What's your next one?
Civ 7, I just want to give it,
Yep.
we don't know much about Civ 7 yet as far as, what's going to be featured, what kind of aspects we're going to see from the other Civ games. Who are new leaders? We'll find out soon, within the next year or so. So
shout out to a coming day and date on console, because that's where I've played the last couple Civs. It just tends to be where I'm more comfortable, and yeah, I will absolutely, if it hits at the right time and it scratches that itch, I will absolutely lose 100 hours in Civ 7 when the time comes.
I did not play Civ 6, but as somebody who has spent well over hundreds of hours in Civ 4 and Civ 5, I can be yes, I'm super jonesed for a new Civ game.
Yeah. Next thing I have is it's more the Outer Sloth announcement as a whole.
Yes.
The Inner Sloth team, the team behind Among Us, basically being like, hey, we made more money than we're ever going to need, so we've created this Outer Sloth thing, Outer Sloth Games, to serve as a indie game fund. We're going to help fund small teams that want to kind of self-produce a thing, give them the resources we wish we had when we were making Among Us. Absolutely love that. That was great. And in particular, shout out to Project Dosa, which is the next game from Eka, the man behind Outer Loop Games, aka the Thirsty Suitors team.
Yeah, I mean,
already kind of working on their next project. Super looking forward to whatever comes of that.
How much we love Thirsty Suitors. I can't wait to see what they're doing next. So, yes.
And getting to kind of, he even came out and said, Annapurna was a great team to work with, and we are very excited to kind of get to do this thing on our own and work on this next game on our own. But yeah, just the whole idea, and in particular, I guess the fact that, credit where credit is due, Keeley giving them a platform to announce that on the stage, when he is often, hey, why isn't he saying anything on the state of the industry? Oh, it's because all of the CEOs are on his board of directors. Of course he's not going to say anything. But he, acknowledged the layoffs and the tough time at the beginning of the episode, or beginning of the showcase, and then I think really reinforcing it with giving the Inner Sloth folks this Outer Sloth slot was a solid beat.
Yeah, on top of that, also being hey, I and my team have curated and found indie games that we want to give an opportunity to be on our showcase here. I understand, especially with that article from Kotaku that came out the day before, where it's this is the listed price for advertising on Keighley Showcase.
I mean, Kotaku pulled it from like an
Was it another
Esquire? I think
Esquire
I think
did that?
It
Okay.
was,
Good to
like
know.
yeah, I think it was somebody else
Yeah.
that kind of originated.
It came
report,
across
but-
my feed under Kotaku, so that's why I saw
Sure.
it. But yeah, if it came through somebody else, props to them for getting it out there. But we're talking like major buku bucks.
Yeah.
Granted,
which you saw in like the nonsense like Kevin Hart chicken, or not Kevin Hart, Ken Jeong chicken thing that like
Yeah.
that the ad with like Christina Ricci and Chris Hemsworth and stuff, and it's just being like, oh, they're just throwing money at this mobile game that they're hoping people buy.
Yep. That is a whole thing, and I want to give a massive shout out for being like, hey, people being like, hey, by the way, this is what it does cost to advertise video games, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
The thing that like that really sheds a light on that I would like to see more transparency over would be, these are games we're showcasing versus these are the paid ad spaces. Because like there is a very clear distinction between like, here's the commercial spot in this showcase in the Game Awards versus like big game announcements, world premieres, and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Well, I think for me with this one, you could tell because it distinctly Jeff was not coming out and like announcing anything, and I forgot her name, but she was also the co-hosting with Jeff. If they weren't there announcing it, it was not a part of the showcase. It was like an ad. That was kind of the thing I immediately picked up on is, oh, this doesn't have somebody announcing it or saying who this is from. That's what's telling me this is an ad. But granted, I also work in marketing, or I've worked in marketing and advertising, so I know the differences between those two things.
I don't think that tracks over the course of the because I think there are just a lot of like
then maybe I'm
transitions where
wrong.
you just
Yeah.
go from like, okay, yeah, Jeff introduced one, and then it was just a block of like 2 or 3 things, and then Jeff comes back out at the end to be like, what'd you think of that thing? And then we move on to the next thing. So there were probably like 1 or 2 in there that weren't introduced by somebody, but were still in that like block that probably weren't ads. So
That might be the case.
admittedly, I only watched
yeah.
it the one time, but
That's fair.
it's a, I would like some kind of like, thing in the corner saying like, hashtag paid ad or something like that, in the same way that you see that kind of stuff on, influencers having to declare that stuff.
Yeah, I would think that would be a good policy for Jeff to have, is to make have like a declarative thing on it that says this was part of a like paid thing.
Yeah.
But maybe that's also why he's able to charge the prices he does, because he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
That's maybe a question of that. But yeah, no.
It's that like every year in the Game Awards, we know the Warhammer stuff is like, okay, they're Warhammer paying lots of money to get, this amount of time in the show versus like, the small indie that Jeff has like handpicked to be like, here, let's give them a, big spotlight moment.
Well,
anyway.
Granted, that and also like Warhammer games are pretty popular.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
But it's Warhammer has the money
Oh,
because of their
100%.
popularity to help fund the rest of the Game Awards.
Oh,
kind of
100.
stuff.
Yes, 100%. And I'd probably happily do it too, because Games Workshop is a big supporter of like investing back into the industry.
Sure.
Yeah.
What else do you have in the Game Fest block?
Yeah, my Game Fest block goes now to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Just give me this game already. God damn it. I'm such a fan of the Budokai Tenkaichi like games from the PS2 era. I have not been wowed by any Dragon Ball game since Dragon Ball Fighters. So Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is like immediately like, yes, this is what I also wanted after the success of Fighters, and people being like, well, Fighters was great and like it's still a good game, but I really want a new like Budokai Tenkaichi game, and that is 100% what Sparking Zero is. It looks like they are like kind of like redoing Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which was like a love letter to the Dragon Ball Z franchise, and getting more of like a Dragon Ball aspect to it, of like encompassing everything, including some Super stuff, which as somebody who is a fan of Super, it's cool to see. I'm excited for more of that. So
Cool. Last one I'm actually interested in. I've got a couple others that like I'll throw out there as like honorable mentions, but the last one I'm eager to maybe actually sit down and play. Power Rangers Rita's Rewind.
yes, that's next on my list too. So
that that strikes the the same itch as Scott Pilgrim when that got re-released a couple years ago, as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge a couple years ago. Like the nostalgic throwback to my original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and getting to jump into kind of that side-scrolling beat 'em up. Be curious, especially when they played and showed like the different, like, here's a bit that's clearly influenced by like a Star Fox sequence and stuff like that. It's not just side-scroller beat 'em up. There is like an homage to lots of different genres of that time frame, of that era. Like everything they showed in that, I was like, yes, please, I'm here for it.
Yeah, getting to see kind of like, oh, this is what it's like when you're playing as the Rangers. This is what it's like when you're playing an individual Zord. And then it's like, this is what it looks like when you're the Megazord. Sold me on it completely.
Yep.
I can't wait.
Gonna jump in, absolutely play as Billy, honoring the young Trevor that absolutely imagined himself being the nerdy one because I was the nerdy one. So yeah,
I'm really curious because they saw like an empty green chair, so people are like, "Oh, are they going to do like when it's closer to release? Are they going to be like, guess what? Green Ranger's here too." Mm-hmm. That'd be sick as hell.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's going to be Green Ranger DLC. Maybe we'll see. I'm stoked for whatever this is,
especially because like the Shredder's Revenge had like Casey Jones as like an extra character that was like
unlockable.
Not like DLC, but like unlockable after you finish the game or something like that. So yeah, maybe they will do, because you gotta have the Green Ranger and the Dragon Zord. Like for me, it very much goes like, do you go as far as having him lose the Green Ranger power and become the White Ranger?
Yeah,
like, really
why not?
Yeah, but
I mean, especially after I'm trying to remember his full name.
Jason David Frank.
Yeah, Jason David Frank, especially after his passing.
Yeah.
Like for somebody who's like been a Power Rangers fan for a long time, like his passing was such a like monumental, like devastating thing across people. Like, and so getting the opportunity to maybe like honor him as well as like other Rangers who've passed. Definitively not the Ranger who murdered somebody.
Sure.
Granted, that's like Wild Force, so that's like way outside of like the scope of like what people will probably be expecting from a Power Rangers game. Yeah. I would love to. I'm super excited for this game.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else from the Summer Game Fest that you want to give some love to?
Yeah, I'll go through this here a bit. We have Mecha Break, which is like after how much I loved Armored Core 6 last year, getting another game that's like more high octane, fast paced, like mecha fighter game sounds awesome. The customization options it looks like they have in this game is unreal. Can't wait to get through that. I love the different types of mechas they're going to have on there. There's some more grounded units, some high flyers, some transformables. Like, I'm just all about this. Give it to me, injected into my veins. After that is Killer Bean. Killer Bean is an old ass, Killer Bean was a movie made by a single person who put it out on the internet, and it kind of caught storm, and it's like a super niche internet meme for years. And the fact that it's now a single developer, and like Jeff being like, it's made by one guy. It's like everybody who knows about Killer Bean knows who's making it. And it's just awesome to see this like legacy of this internet meme / like an actual, like, it's not an unentertaining movie. It's just dumb. It's about an assassin who's a bean in a world of beans, and he does cool action stuff.
This was the other one that I was like, I'm not going to play it, but like it was a fun trailer. It is absolutely just like the absurdity, stupidity of. I've been listening to Lonely Island, and Seth Meyers are doing a podcast looking back at like the Lonely Island shorts.
Yeah.
And this is like the epitome of like something in that kind of wheelhouse of like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do all of the action trope things, but we're gonna have it being a stupid bean character that just like. It looks silly. It's the like My Friend Pedro from a couple years ago that was like the the banana or whatever that was out there spinning, doing Matrix stuff. This guy doing a under the legs throw a grenade kind of thing. Absolute fun absurdity. Not gonna be anything I'd jump in and check out, but like a fun ass trailer to watch.
Listen, when he knows there's a guy on the other side of the wall, so he jumps through the window to get the angle of the shot, and shoots the guy through the window. Like, that's Killer Bean. so Killer Bean, I believe, came out like during the digital shorts era on the internet. So like we're talking like early 2000 teens. Killer Bean is like up there with that kind of era of stuff of ridiculousness, and so I'm not surprised at all that you like got that kind of like that Lonely Island spark from it.
Yeah.
Definitely looks like it's fulfilling that. It's probably not going to be a very long game. It's an indie game made by one guy, but like I love to see I was blown away to see Killer Bean at the Summer Games Fest. Period.
Yeah. Anything else out there?
Yeah, Wanderstop came up. Wanderstop is a shoot. I'm trying to remember what Wanderstop is.
Wanderstop is the Annapurna game that
Yes.
is like, it's a cozy game, but maybe there's a dark secret.
Yes.
The
Where
Stanley
it's-
Parable guy.
Yeah, it's the anxiety. She's from a different game, basically like a different
Yeah.
kind of game.
Yeah.
But she's now living in like this idyllic kind of like cozy game, farming sim stuff. And it's like it looks like it's going to be dealing with like PTSD basically.
Yeah.
So.
It's one that like, if it reviews well, you know, and I'm in a mood for a cozy game like that, maybe I'll jump in and check it out. But like, the trailer itself just didn't like win me over. I was like, I like that there's a, you know, darker thing here. It has maybe Cult of the Lamb kind of vibes too, which, you know, it like was a ton of fun. I had a great time with that game. For me, it is just like I have to be in like the right mood for
Yes.
that kind of experience.
For sure.
I'm curious. Couple of the next ones in like the IGN rundown are New World and Pal World.
They are not on my list. I'm not looking at those.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, I'm curious, knowing that you had played both of those as well. I'll throw in Valorant in here too. Valorant coming to console.
No, I hate Valorant.
It's I thought that was kind of where you ended up landing on Valorant, but
Yeah, no, I hate Valorant.
knowing that you had played all of the above, did anything shown off here be like, oh, I want to pick that back up? Valorant, clearly a no.
Yeah, Valorant's a no for me.
We're watching you stream Valorant.
Yeah, no, Valorant was a game that gave me nothing but anxiety. It's a super sweaty game, and I just don't care for it. It's the same reason I don't play Counter-Strike. I enjoy that it's a tight gameplay, but the kind of like the level of like skill difference that can like make and break that game is just too much for me.
Sure.
There's like no room for error when games that you're playing, and like then on top of that having like toxic teammates just absolutely like roast your ass all the time. It's just not fun.
It strikes me as like, hey, matchmaking should be way better. You should be getting matched with people that are your skill level and against people that are your skill level, so that you can actually get better at the game and do stuff, as opposed to, no, you're just going to be fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's also like, I'm playing with people at my skill level, but am I just also just like bad at this game? So like I'm playing with other people who are bad at the game. They just happen to be better than me.
That is quite literally not playing at your skill level if they are better than you.
Well, it's like rank
is what
level,
I'm
like
saying.
where you're at that rank. When you're not a great player, like you get tossed in at the bottom of the barrel, and sometimes the bottom of the barrel is like a big barrel, you know.
Yeah. But nothing from Pal World.
No, Power World, I had my fun time with it, but I never got into like the multiplayer aspect of it, and nothing in that game really like carried me for a long time. Fun game, really fun gameplay loop, but like at some point it's just not. It's just more Power World, and that doesn't speak to me. So.
And then nothing to bring you back into New World.
New World, no. That I had a fun time with that, but most of that was also like playing with John, my brother-in-law, and like some other folks. I had fun with that for a while, and then coming back to it after it went free to play was also kind of fun. But nothing about this new expansion like speaks to me at any point. So.
Okay. Well, anything else from the Summer Game Fest?
Yeah, Phantom Blade Zero.
Okay.
That game continues to look cool as fuck. So.
Yeah, that was the big like one more thing, and I was like, I don't care about this game, so I basically just turned the the showcase off at that point, because it wasn't even a one more thing. It was just this is the last game of our showcase, and like that came out, I was like, oh, I don't care about this at all.
Yep. No, it's great. I had a fun time with it. Or not fun time with it. It looks great. I think I'll have a fun time with it when it comes out. And I'm looking more forward to it. So cool enemies designs, cool world, cool action. I'm in.
All right, then let's move over to the Xbox showcase, which I think both of us were very high on today.
Yes.
Especially like as I'm obviously a much more like PlayStation based person. As much as I would like to, like, I would like Xbox to deliver more games that I'm interested in. Just hasn't happened in the years since. But I have a bunch of games on my list that like caught my eye from this today. So yeah, shout out to this showcase. But I'll throw it to you first. What do you want to kick off with first?
I'll kick it off because I don't think it's going to be on your list, but Call of Duty Black Ops 6.
Okay, yeah.
The level of, and especially in their kind of direct afterwards, the level of improvements that they're making in this game is insane. This could have just been like cool story, cool stuff. The mechanical things they're changing about Call of Duty, the omni movement direction stuff, where you are like, it is just on a level of like elevating it from like where Call of Duty has been for years, and like the way they're changing that aspect of it, insane. The way that they're changing like an assist, they're bringing an assist mode, which is one, it's I want to refer to it correctly here, but it's essentially a disability
Accessibility.
Accessibility. Thank you. Yeah. I'm like, it's not disability, but it's accessibility. It's an accessibility feature, but on top of that, they're also saying like, hey, this is actually going to be super good for everybody, which like a good accessibility feature is good for everyone. And like, for example, when you play Fortnite, you play it with all those accessibility features on, and it helps you like know where people are at and play that way. This one is about like button prompts. So leaping, like mantling, like going over obstacles. Like instead of giving you a button prompt to do that and it just automatically has you do it. So like when you're moving, you just auto run now. Mm-hmm. When you're doing this, it's an auto this. Like it's done to, they showed like, hey, this is when it's off. There's 6 button prompts to go through these couple of obstacles. What does it mean when you have this stuff on? These accessibility features on? 0 button prompts. You're just moving through obstacles as they're in front of you. I can see some people being like, especially in like sweaty games of Warzone, not wanting that. That's fine. But for me, this looks like, okay, what a great accessibility feature, but also what a great way to like elevate the game and make changes that way. Yeah, overall, also story is now being set in like the 90s, so we're in the post-Cold War era. What does it look like when America's the only superpower on the stage at this point? Because we haven't seen like the rise of China becoming the like replacement of the superpower of Russia, or sorry, not Russia, the Soviet Union, that happened in like the late 90s, early aughts, where it kind of took the center stage as the second world power next to the United States. So we're kind of like, that story seems interesting. I have not been keeping up with the Black Ops storyline, so I have no idea what the hell's going on in it, but it looks cool. And Robert Redford's character's back, which is cool.
I didn't even catch that.
Yep. Yeah, overall it looks really great. Will I pick it up and play it? Probably not.
Oh wait, no, I probably did catch that was his character. I just didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was the Robert Redford character.
Yeah. I like that Call of Duty does a really good thing for the industry, in that a lot of the people who start out at like Treyarch or Raven end up leaving that studio eventually to go to other places, but they learn extremely valuable skills. I've heard people talk about in interviews like the groundwork that you get at a studio like Raven or Treyarch helps elevate you. Like it's a great place to break into the industry in.
I immediately, when you were like, Call of Duty does great for the industry, I immediately think, well, they're also like one of the most toxic audiences, so they could absolutely do a better job of shutting that bullshit down, and don't. So that's annoying, but
that's fair.
As somebody like I've played 2 Call of Duty games. I played Infinite Warfare and Call of Duty 4, I think, or whatever. Like I don't remember. Or no. The Modern Warfare remake, I guess. It was a 1-2 punch of those were the games that came out that year. And I was like, all right, now I've finally played a Call of Duty. Yeah, it's the gameplay, it's crisp shooters but I'm never going to play it. I'm never going to jump into a multiplayer map because it's not my vibe.
Yeah, that's totally fair. When I'm thinking about this game and kind of like what it means for the industry, and what it means for Xbox, their whole thing where it's like, this really is like the make or break it test for Game Pass. Like this has to do well on Game Pass. and it has to show that it will sell well in other places as well.
That's it's going to be so fascinating because they're going to theoretically lose so much money from not selling the $70 version of the game to people on Game Pass. And so they got to be hoping that, yeah, they're still going to make the money off of the PlayStation versions of the game that they're selling, PC versions of the game they're selling.
It's coming day and
But yeah.
date to Game Pass on PC.
I think they're going to lose a lot of money on that one.
But will we see like the numbers for Game Pass balloon at that point? Like, is that their like?
Maybe that's what they're going for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say this will be a make it or break it moment for Game Pass, for Call of Duty, for the ABK acquisition deal. Like, this is a big moment for it. So like, and I'm saying I hope it does well because I don't want to see more studios close. I don't want to see more casualties of the ABK merger. I don't want to see more layoffs. I don't want to see more of that. I want it to do well because I think that means the industry will be better for it. And when I say that, I mean better for it where it's at right now, after these game studios have already closed.
Yeah. And now I'm immediately thinking, does the monthly rate of Game Pass go up between now and like right before this game launches or something?
It
like
could,
that?
but
Yeah.
I mean, also Game Pass is already like ridiculously cheap for what it is.
But it has been slowly creeping up there and
Yeah.
getting more and more in line with like Netflix's, well, we dominate the space now and we're your only option, so blah blah blah.
Yeah. I will say, actually, before we get further into this, I do want to say, I paid attention to the interview that I almost said Jeff Keighley, but it's not Jeff Keighley. It's Phil Spencer, that Phil Spencer did with Ryan McCaffrey over at IGN. Mm-hmm. I want to give take a moment to. I put it out on Twitter, but I also wanted to put it out here on the podcast. The response he gave when McCaffrey, and it was massive shout out to McCaffrey for like.
He asked the question. I don't think he asked the follow up that he should have asked.
That's true.
Of like, yeah, no, that's your canned response, but how do you justify spending billions of dollars and then dropping these teams, these critically acclaimed teams? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should have been the follow-up that he used, but I will also say I appreciate that he brought it up in the first place.
It's the, like, I don't expect that. I don't expect McCaffrey to ask that of Phil.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of question that you might get Jason Schreier to ask as the follow-up.
It's a question you might have gotten Jeff Grubb to ask if Phil Spencer showed up on the Giant Bomb couch. Or if he had done like if Jeff Gerstmann did an interview with him. You'd expect that from a Jeff Gerstmann.
Sure.
You don't expect that from a Ryan McCaffrey. The fact that Ryan McCaffrey, and I appreciate that, because I tweeted out, a couple months ago, I said, Ryan, you now have to ask Phil about this. And like, I don't want to be a mean to you and be like, you have to do it, but like, how do you have him after this Xbox showcase and not ask him that question? So the fact that, let me put it this way, Ryan McCaffrey asking that question, I feel, is a big ask for Ryan McCaffrey. I would have expected Ryan McCaffrey not to ask that question, based off of the way that the Xbox Unlocked podcast and the way that Ryan McCaffrey, does his interviews. He normally doesn't do hardball interviews.
Yeah, I'd say, but like it's and it's nothing against Ryan. It's just not his style.
It's not his
to
style.
be antagonistic or to ask the quote unquote hard questions.
Ryan McCaffrey is part of the enthusiast side of the enthusiast press. He runs an Xbox fan an Xbox fan themed podcast. Like, we're not expecting these hard questions from him.
His background was he started on the original Xbox magazine,
Yeah.
and then went to IGN from there, kind
Like,
of thing. So he was on the
PR
official
side.
Microsoft PR side of things first. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting him to ask those hard-hitting games journalist questions. The fact that like I mentioned earlier, the fact that he asked it at all kind of surprised me. I expected it out of him for, like, if you're repping a outlet like IGN, you need to ask that question. But the fact that he followed through with it, I shouldn't say it surprised me. I am happy that he did it. I'm not surprised he didn't do that follow-up that he should have done. But that being said, I want to say to Phil's answer, fuck you. What a fucking bullshit-ass answer. How fucking dare you after the leaks of what got sent out from executive messaging about how the games you want to see from studios are award-winning games, you shut down fucking Tango. Like, go fuck yourself, Phil. Like, kiss my ass. That's really my feeling towards it. I want to put this at the top because I'm going to be giving the Xbox Showcase a lot of love, but I want to emphasize how fucking pissed off I am at his fucking bullshit answer. Sure. And here's the thing. I know Phil can't give another answer. Phil's not going to give another answer because if he gave another answer, he'd get shit on from like by his bosses.
It's bosses, shareholders. And also there's like a culpability kind of thing. Yeah, like any CEO has to very carefully have their words kind of picked out for that.
The president of Xbox can't give a non-canned response. Yeah, I know that. Fuck you.
So our audience has the context of what that response was. The tweet that you quoted from IGN on recent studio closures. Quote, "The closure of any team is hard. Now is the time to focus on the team and the individuals because it's obviously very hard for them. I've said over and over again that I have to make hard decisions to run a sustainable business." I think that's the one you.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what you quoted, and then like somebody else that you retweeted in addition to your like this statement says fucking nothing. You retweeted somebody that basically said the quote, "I have to run a sustainable business line will never work in a world where he got to do a shopping spree and buy one of the biggest game publishers on earth before shit canning studios," which yeah, it's like. I was thinking right before we sat down to record, I was like, having, seen that kind of stuff, it is like, you couldn't push off the Microsoft higher-ups, 6 months to be like, let us get this showcase out that is going to wow everybody and will move some units and will, get us some goodwill. Let us see if this turns the table now that we finally have games to show and start releasing in the next year. And let's hold on to some of those other studios a little bit longer. We can foot the bill. We're fucking Microsoft.
Yeah. The fact that here's the thing. I have no doubt that it wasn't Phil's, in my opinion, and this is my theory, I don't think it was Phil's decision to close those studios. I 100% see that as, the bean counters making those decisions, looking at spreadsheets and being like, okay, you have to axe this much money, close 2 studios. I 100% see that being the case. That being said, I also understand he can't say that.
Yeah,
I get that, Phil. But here's the thing: you are the president of Microsoft. This is your burden to bear, motherfucker. You want to be the boss. This is the shit running downhill on. Or
this is why you get paid billions of or millions of billions of dollars every year anyway.
This is why you make the big bucks, is because when things go well, we love you. I call you Papa Phil. I want you to be my dad. When things are bad, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and you're going to get your Fallout 76 camp nuked.
Yep, 100%. That's what you get, man. You want to be the nice guy? This is what happens when the nice guy has to make bad decisions. And I think you're right. I think it is that. But I also think he expended all of his political capital when they got tied up in regulations.
Yeah.
They didn't anticipate the FTC would fucking take them to court. They weren't anticipating that.
Yep.
But it fucking happened, and we know they didn't anticipate that because holy shit, did the things we find out from those fucking courtroom transcripts.
Well, the big dump was when they accidentally uploaded an unredacted file to a public server that made it, that gave basically everything, all the leaks. It wasn't somebody hacked in and found leaked emails. It was they leaked their own emails through their legal counsel and stuff like that. And it was like, whoops, womp womp.
Yep. Not only that, but we also have the testimonies that were going on that were public attendance. So Rebecca Valentine and Jason Schreier were tuning into those. You have that happening, and it's I'm sure he spent a lot of political capital in getting I can't imagine those were fun meetings with his bosses when that trial was going on. I can't imagine with the fucking what is it? The teeter-totter is the little playground thing where it's going up and down on either side. The teeter-tottering of the stock price during that time was awful for them, I'm sure. So I'm sure he wasn't having a fun time being the boss during that time. And so I have no doubt, I have no doubt that this was a higher up decision. That being said, this is you give us this canned response that you are forced to give. great. I'm still going to tell you to go fuck yourself because this is the position you're in. This is the position we're in as somebody who was like knows that there was a plan for Hi-Fi Rush 2 and I'm never going to fucking get to see that. Fuck you, Phil. And also, fuck you, Matt. Was it Boone who came out and was just like... Matty Bowie was like, hey, guys, this is really hard for Phil too. Fuck you.
Oh, no, that was Mike Ibarra.
Yeah, that was Mike Ibarra,
Mike Ibarra, sorry. I thought you were referring to Matt Booty in the Xbox showcase being like, we're so proud of our teams and blah, 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 blah.
That I also had a problem with. That I also had a problem with.
Like, I shout out to the Mike Bithell tweet that was basically like, new rule, if you laid off teams within the last few months, let's say 3 months, you don't get to go on a conference or on a big presentation and stage and say, we're so proud of our teams. Like, go fuck yourself kind of vibes.
Or it was also Matt Booty was the one that sent out the email that had the like expectations from our teams. Our teams need to be trying to get like award winning, and it's like you don't get to go out on that fucking showcase and be like, we're so proud of our teams, or send out emails saying we want award winning teams when you fucking shut down the award winning teams.
Yeah,
like you don't get you shouldn't do that. Just don't. So yeah, that's my problem with Matt Booty. About Mike Ibarra being like, guys, this was really hard for Phil too. That's the kind of shit I'm going to be honest, that's the kind of tweet I expect from like Ryan McCaffrey.
I mean, well, Mike Ibarra was like Blizzard executive.
Yeah.
So like he was that guy who was going through hard shit. He was also the guy who was like, we should tip developers. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you dumbass. You have, like, that the economics of the system would not put that money in the developer's hands, so shut the fuck up.
Oh, also, Mike Ibarra, very notable from a lot of people who have been speaking out anonymously over the years, last few years, saying Mike Ibarra is a really shitty boss.
Yeah.
And a really shitty guy. So, who's like 100% one of those Activision bean counter guys who's like, we got to get as much money as possible out of things. Yeah, fuck Mike Ibarra. Unrelated note to the Xbox Showcase, but just fuck Mike Ibarra in general.
All right, so back to the Xbox Showcase.
To the showcase.
After we will step down off the soapbox.
I'll put the soapbox off to the side.
Doom: The Dark Ages.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! I'm so fucking into this game. It reminds me that I didn't play the DLC for Doom Eternal, and I'm definitely booting up and playing that over the next couple weeks. Oh my god! When that trailer launched, and I'm like, oh my god, they're doing it. I mentioned to you probably during the Game of the Year stuff, I really would like to see when it comes to like the DLC for it. I want to see the like Doomslayer era of this like cool ass world that we got to see. I was like, I would love to see that. It's like id Software heard me say that, and we're like, hold my beer. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you one better. Give me a full fucking game of this with the fucking giant mech suit that he like was like a set piece in a level, and then you get like that fucking like battle cat from fucking He-Man that has wings that flies. Fuck yeah, inject this shit into my veins. I fucking love this.
Fun fact, I work with the guy who originated the hold my beer meme. Like, it was a Facebook thing he posted back in, like, the 2016 election or something.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, no, that's like, a totally legit thing that, like, it blew up. And, like, if you, like, look up the Hold My Beer meme on, like, Know Your Meme or whatever.
It's him?
He is, like, a guy I work with is credited for it. He told me, like, he told us that in, like, one of our, like, here's an icebreaker kind of thing. And I was just like, oh, that's fascinating that I work with this guy. Really good guy.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
But yeah, Doom Dark Ages. I also didn't jump back in and play any of the DLC. Like, in particular, Doom Eternal, I mean, part of it was it hit famously at the same time as Animal Crossing, which I ended up pouring 400 plus hours into that I was not expecting. And I played the original, like I played Doom Eternal, but it just didn't hit the same way that Doom 2016 did. I thought it was way too long, like 3 times longer than it needed to be, and it just did not. Like, I mean, great polish, and it just I was exhausted by the end of that game. So I'm like, it's weird to hope that this is a more like compacted experience like Doom 2016 was.
No, give it all to me. Give it fucking all to me again. I fucking loved it.
But I mean, it's no doubt the gameplay is going to be great. I hope, like, one of the fucking annoying ass things of Doom Eternal was the Marauder and the fact that you'd like parry it like very precise timing to do any kind of damage to that enemy. I hope they didn't like double down on that kind of shit,
It
because
doesn't look like it from what they showed.
I don't know. There were a couple moments that they showed where I was like, oh, it looks like they're doing a fucking another parry moment here thing.
I think the shield is meant to be like to address that though.
Yeah, we'll
the
see.
shield feels like they're bringing in like they're kind of expanding that parry mechanic, and I assume that will also probably lower the barrier of entry for it.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing that like, okay, this completely disrupts the otherwise great like fluid like flow of the gameplay and the like. All right, I'm out of this resource, so I gotta use a chainsaw kill to get that, or I gotta do a glory kill to get whatever, and like the dance that comes from that kind of thing, then you'd get these enemies, and it was just like, oh fuck this noise.
Yeah, no, I definitely understood people's frustration with it. I enjoyed that, but then I'm also like a Soulsborne player, and like I live for that shit.
Yeah.
You heard me try to beat the fire giant for like a week in here at one point because I was having a hard time with the build that I was using, and like I didn't give up. But like that's also like but I also had a hard time with Marauder until I got it down, and then I no longer had problems with Marauders from there on.
I mean, the problem is like the Marauder starts as like a boss fight, and then throughout the rest of the game, it's just a regular guy, but you still have to do the exact same bullshit each time. I was like, fuck this guy.
I don't know.
Every time that guy showed up, I was like, I hate this.
Yeah, it's not. I would like to see that simplified for folks.
Yeah.
So it's not such a hard stop for people.
Yeah.
And I hope that the kind of expanded parry mechanics that they were showing off of the trailer do lend that towards like. It reminds me of God of War Ragnarok, the kind of like choose your parry style aspect of it that came with like the different shield types. Mm-hmm. I hope to see that kind of like an evolution of the parry mechanic from Doom Eternal into Doom Dark Ages.
Yeah.
But no, as far as like the aesthetic of it, oh shit, fuck yeah, man. I'm like getting to play through the fall of the Slayer civilization. That we got teased in all the codex stuff, because you guys know out there, this lore slut was reading all those fucking codexes. I was collecting all that shit just so I could immerse myself into this lore. Like, it was. I was all about that, and I loved every moment of it. Oh my gosh. Getting to play through it, though, it's going to be so good.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling it's going to end with us at the point where we are betrayed by the corrupted Slayer Council, that ends up putting us into hell and trapping the Slayers in hell. So that's my theory. I'm excited to just see it, though.
And as somebody who doesn't give a crap about the story and just there for the gameplay, sure. What's next on your list here?
Next on my list is State of Decay 3. As somebody who's never played any State of Decay game,
okay.
I am excited just for more. I know that I know there was a big setback at the studio a while back.
Yeah.
After State of Decay 2 came out and they got acquired by Microsoft. So I'm interested to see what kind of their.
They got acquired in the same presentation that Ninja Theory was acquired at. And it was like, they're building out like their coalition of Xbox game studios, including the coalition or the initiative and stuff. And this finally coming out now all these years later, much like Hellblade: Senua's Saga finally coming out all these years later. It's like, okay, finally we're seeing the fruits of that, like those presentations from like 6 years ago.
Yeah, the acquisition for State of Decay Studio was a bit awkward because they were coming out with State of Decay 2 already. And so they were acquired during development. And so we got that game out pretty quickly, quote unquote, from Microsoft being a backer of it. But like very much that game was done at the time. But I remember rumblings that State of Decay 3 was in a bad place at one point. And there was like some like rough times at the studio. So I'm happy to see what we saw from State of Decay 3. I'm interested to see what gameplay looks like because we only got that cinematic trailer. But it does look like it's less about focusing on like base building, and it's more about exploring out this world now. So.
All right, yeah, the next one I have is a Dragon Age Veilguard. In particular, we got the like they announced ahead of. And I'm sure it was interesting because you and I both obviously we watched Kind of Funny, where Jeff Grubb kind of teased like Dragon Age is probably going to be there, but it's not probably not going to be Dreadwolf. And then like they came out ahead of this showcase and were like, hey, we've renamed the game. It's going to be Dragon Age Veilguard. Look for more this this week. But we got a little trailer introducing the Veilguard team, and in particular the fact that the game's coming out later this year. I was like, oh hell yeah, because I big fan of the Dragon Age games. I love the art style of this, and yeah, basically as soon as we see Varric, out there with Bianca shooting things and telling his tales, I was like, I'm back in. Give me Dragon Age. I think Dragon Age. I'm bummed that Dragon Age didn't kind of end up being the full echo of like the Mass Effect of like Mass Effect. You're following one crew. You're following your shepherd through games 1, 2, and 3. The like Dragon Age Origins, going into a completely different hero that you're playing in Dragon Age 2, then going into yet another third hero that you're playing in Dragon Age Inquisition, and then especially with Inquisition being like, it's, very hit or miss what kind of information you could carry over from your previous games. You had to go and do like a whole separate, like, go into this other app and like, select the answers that you
the
picked
website,
or whatever.
the
and
service
stuff.
that you had to
and
do.
I was like that was a disappointment. That ended up making me ultimately feel a little bit more disconnected from Dragon Age in that vein. But I'm still here for it. I still like the world of the Dragon Age games, and I hope that this another game that suffered a lot through development based on the stories and obviously just the shift in priorities of BioWare over the years. But I'm hopeful that this ends up, coming out and being a good, solid game and not like Andromeda was of we're just trying to get this out, to meet a fiscal year deadline. The fact that it's coming out this year and not, March of next year before the end of the fiscal year or something like that leads me to think, okay, it's at least in some good enough state that they're feeling okay with it. They're feeling, good about. But yeah, I just I hope that it's able to recapture the like BioWare building up your party kind of magic, especially after Baldur's Gate last year. I don't. It's the thing I don't expect it to be Baldur's Gate now, but if it can just do something akin to the BioWare games of old, I will be happy with it.
Yeah, for me, I have a very like weird take on any BioWare property at this point. I mean,
most of the people that made the BioWare games that we liked aren't there making the BioWare games that we like.
Yeah,
anymore.
they're just not there. And the people that are there, like are not the people who I like have the strongest opinion of. That being said, like I look at Dragon Age, and I look at Dragon Age 1 was one of my favorite games of all time. The Warden's Tale through this classic fantasy story that's like a darker edge of fantasy where has like some real nightmare fuel going on. Like, oh, you are born a magic user, which means you have a backdoor in your brain to like a hellscape of where every time you dream, you could basically invite a demon in without knowing it. And because of that, you are basically considered like a suicide bomber by every like major authority, or by the most major authority in the world, which is the religion, the Chantry and the mages and everything and their conflict. It creates a very interesting story to tell about that. I don't feel like the stories of Dragon Age after Origins have always been well told. I feel like the idea of like focusing instead of like a multi-origin scape that leads you into your Warden story that is very unique, has a lot of choices involved in it, that is like a very classic BioWare story. Dragon Age 2, for multiple reasons that have been noted by multiple authors across the years, including Jason Schreier, talking about Dragon Age 2's like very troubled development. It had a unbelievably short development cycle, was notable for its reusing of assets and everything. But despite that, told what I felt was like a very competent, very very condensed, very personal story to, Dragon Age 1 was like your Warden. Dragon Age 2 was, it's your Hawk. Male or female, could be either. Different options because of your classes.
Your champion of Kirkwall.
Yeah, your champion of Kirkwall. Your Hawk really also had a lot of like who could be in your party depending on your choice of gender or your class choice. If you chose to be a mage, your Hawk meant that your sister died. But if you chose to be one of the other two classes, your brother died. And so it led to a lot of different varieties of storytelling and gameplay and how that story ended up going. All that being said was there's a lot of choices still involved in that. And those things often had a major impact because you were telling a story over the lifetime of this character instead of just like one major event. Like the major event in Origins was the like what do they call it, the blight reoccurring, a major civil war conflict in Ferelden, like all this stuff happening during this time that was like this is just like taking place in like a year of a character's lifetime, where Dragon Age 2 was over the course of like 15 years of your Hawk story. And which means you got to see your characters, your party, in different aspects of their story throughout time. And you saw Anders become more and more radicalized, falling further and further into his like weird symbiotic relationship with the like virtuous spirit that by becoming symbiotic with him had unintentionally corrupted, and was leading him down this dark, terrible path that ends up culminating in him committing basically kickstarting a conflict across the world between mages and the Chantry. Like a lot of massive things happen during that story that it's like, if you look at it from if you're a historian looking at this period of time, you do look at Hawk as being like, this is a unique character in this 15-year span of the choices they make lead to a massive conflict that then, like, imagine if you looked at the assassin who killed Archduke Ferdinand, and you looked at 15 years of his life that leads to him then becoming the assassin that kills Archduke Ferdinand. Like, it's a cool aspect to take on storytelling. Inquisition was such a shallow game to me.
Okay.
You have this big open world, you have this big wide stuff, but it felt so empty and so shallow. Whether we're bringing back, you can choose your own origin again, like you're your own character, so you don't have to be a human, you can be an elf or whatever, and you have these origins, and it's like, oh, that's so cool, and then, but it's such a shallow choice. The ultimate outcome from you choosing a different background other than like human, or like whatever your background was, is a different type of card objective that comes that you have to spend, that you get a resource from later on in the game on that big war board. That's it.
I mean, I would submit you have plenty of dialogue changes that occur throughout the game.
Sure, dialogue changes are there, and that flavor is flavored out, and that's great.
Which is what all like these have always been. Like in the first game, you get a completely different prologue depending on like the origin that you're picking, kind of thing. But like after that prologue, you go down the same path as any of those other characters. So I don't know if I buy into that criticism.
Like I said, I have
but admittedly, that was my game of the year in 2014. So
yep, and it wasn't mine. It was my look at Inquisition. It feels like there's a lot of things that are really cool ideas that never get fully fleshed out. There's a lot of gaps in choices, but also like I thought it was interesting. But there's still a lot of like really great characters. There's Dorian, there's Blackwall. Blackwall was one of like the most interesting decisions that ever got made because I never forgave Blackwall. The lie he told, and the fact that he comes clean on it and everything, and that's great. But like and this is what really was the attachment that I had. Like it felt so shallow in certain points, but then there were these weird these weird moments of depth. And it made me realize that there was a considerate amount of effort that was put into this game to give us this depth to it. But then those drops in depth that really add to that game are so few and far between. Only a couple of characters I feel have those great moments like Blackwall. That momentous version in Blackwall's story of when the truth comes out, and it is a big, like, I felt very emotionally impacted by that.
So all this to say, you're not excited for
I'm trepidatious.
Okay.
Basically, let me put it this way, I'm trepidatious. I don't know the team now, because the team that's working on this game is not the team that made Inquisition. That team has like been broken up, got like moved around a lot during the production of Anthem. changed BioWare significantly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what these teams look like anymore. This is the first game we're getting post-Anthem from BioWare, right? Like, tell me I'm wrong. I know the Ultimate Collection came out, the remastered edition of Mass Effect, but, like, has there been anything else since then that's new?
Don't think so. Because they were going to do that, like, 4v1 game, but that got scrapped pretty early.
Yeah, pretty early on in development. We haven't gotten anything from BioWare since then. We don't know the team that's making this game.
Real quick on that, just a little point of clarification, because I was looking it up earlier. On the State of Decay side of things, State of Decay came out. State of Decay 2 came out, and then Microsoft acquired them a few months after.
There we go.
But like they had already been in like a multi-game relationship with Microsoft, so it was more just like a formal acquisition at that point.
There we go. Thank you for that correction, though, so we don't get shouted at it in the comments.
It looks like the Mass Effect Legendary Edition was the last like thing, and because Dragon Age and Mass Effect 5 have been in like long gestating development hell.
Very much so, yeah. Like that's the thing. I know from Jason Schreier's reporting, Dreadwolf, and now we know is now the Veilguard, has gone through numerous reboots in its project development because it was announced and teased in 2015. So we've had almost 10 years of this game in development hell, and it's like, okay, well, what kind of game is it going to be? We don't know. Like, this is a completely different team than has ever, like, we probably have a lot of carryovers from prior Dragon Age games. I have no doubt that's the case. But how many of these people have ever touched? But my thing is, how many of these people were massive fans of Dragon Age 1 and 2, and even Inquisition? These people are going to be doing their best to give us the best possible Dragon Age game because they know this Dragon Age game has to hit. It has to do well.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, the resources that have been pulled in on this game and pooled, I'm hopeful for this game. But I have massive trepidation because my mixed feelings on Inquisition and then like my feelings on Andromeda and Anthem being fully realized. And my whole thing about it and why I used to say BioWare's not BioWare anymore is because I no longer expect Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy or Dragon Age 1 or 2 kind of levels of expectations that other people might be expecting. I no longer believe of such a thing as BioWare magic. I don't believe in this magic studios.
I will freely say that like reading the Jason Schreier thing in the book on Anthem, talking about like and also his articles on this of like BioWare magic just meant they were really bad at like scoping their projects.
Yep.
and things got way out of hand, or they would be like, here's the idea we want, and then they wouldn't be able to actually build it in any kind of time frame, and and nobody was in there doing regular check-ins to it's a lot of the project management stuff and the project timeline stuff that I've talked to you about in your old job of like, are you meeting with your boss to like say this so you don't go down the wrong path for a month and then end up
that
being
happened with
fucked
one project,
kind of thing. Yeah. But that's
it's for real.
that was the BioWare magic that people would kind of fold in there. So
or the CD Projekt Red magic, like when we're talking about these like scopes of pre-production that aren't being fleshed out and developed, and then you go into production and it's a fucking nightmare. Like I no longer expect the kind of games that we have previously gotten from BioWare. So I'm open to a new team, a new approach to Dragon Age. The trailer they showed, by the way, looks awesome. Really cool concept ideas for characters. I want to bring Varric back, great. Hardin's back from Inquisition, great. Left Hardin. We're getting these like really cool characters. We're getting a Warden character who has a Griffin companion, which is shout out to the book that came out where they basically are the Grey Wardens have rediscovered Griffins. And so we're getting a Griffin Cub character for this Warden, and I love that.
We should get we're getting gameplay in a couple days.
Yep, so we'll see more.
That'll probably be a make or break kind of showcase for you, it sounds
from
like.
Something that came out, I can't confirm it. I've just seen it from other fans of that. It's shown up mostly on my TikTok from one account. There's the rumor, and you might be able to confirm it for me, that it's 3 in a party now.
Oh, I can't speak to that.
Okay. I've heard the rumor is that there's only 3 in a party now. I think that is if they do make that move, big mistake. The aspect of the 4 members of a party, but only 3 classes, always meant that you could have like 2 of a mage, 2 of a warrior, like, especially because these classes had different specializations in them. So you could have like one mage who is like a full support mage, and then you have another mage that's a full damage mage. And having those 2 mages made a big difference in a lot of fights. It speaks to me like if you go to those 3 points, you're gonna get into, well, I need to have a mage and a rogue for my warrior. Like, you bring that kind of aspect into it that has always been a thing that Dragon Age has never had to deal with. So I'm curious. I'm concerned. That's a point of concern for me if that rumor is true. We'll find out in a couple of days when we see gameplay. But.
Sure. What do you have next on the list?
Next, I have Starfield. I'm curious about the DLC stuff that they showed. I'm interested in probably hopping back into Starfield at some point. We'll see. Everything only has about 2 weeks before Shroud of the Erdtree launches, and then I'm not playing anything but that for a week and trying to beat it in a week so I can immediately move on to Dawn Trail. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the Shattered Space DLC, they don't have a date for it. It's just coming out later this year. Versus the like, oh, here's the extra like new mods and stuff that you can get in Starfield.
That's what
today.
I was referring to.
Okay.
Yeah, the Shattered Space stuff looks cool. That was a major thing for me is like, you in all this lore have a third faction, but all you ever do is get like some like space fights with that faction in Starfield.
I mean, there's some cool stuff in there in the side quest things, but it is off the beaten path, or it is, hey, go down and do this specific side. Like I got to meet and go into like the embassy of the House of Varun as part of the Vanguard faction quest line stuff. So I got to meet and experience some of that you didn't, because you didn't want to go be a space cop.
Damn right. ACAB. ACAB in space, ACAB on Earth. ACAB in Star Wars.
I mean, the whole thing though is like you can absolutely betray the space cops and join the pirates if you want to. So
I thought about it.
You just completely miss out on that storyline stuff. But yeah,
I want a space bounty hunter vibe anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I'm nothing is like probably going to get me back to Starfield. There are any number of other Bethesda games I will jump in again sooner than Starfield, obviously, given that I did a full replay of Fallout 4 and stuff recently.
I'm not gonna lie, I just really want to get back into space combat in Starfield. I really fucking loved it, and sure. I also want to like with the custom stuff. Like let's. Did
you ever even finish the game of Starfield?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope. I did put 20+ hours into shipbuilding though.
Sure.
So when I say like the new like fan custom content is appealing to me, it's mostly starship stuff. I want to go back and build a cool starfighter.
Cool. The next one, I want to give a shout out to Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Absolutely.
Don't know a ton about this, but it was a cool trailer, and seems like an interesting enough like new IP to jump into. So yeah, I like it. It sold me to keep an eye on this game. Hope it ends up being like, not another Forspoken or something like that. Hope it ends up actually having some cool extra ideas and stuff behind it, but and gameplay and whatnot. Don't have a ton to say on it. Just wanted to give that a shout out too. I don't know, anything to add from you?
Sure. Yeah, I think it looks awesome. I'm super excited. Shout out to Ben Starr for
being the voice of that trailer.
Yeah, being the voice of that trailer. The story looks cool. Like you're a part of an expedition to try to hunt down this person who's basically committing like the extinction of the human race by eliminating people by a certain age, and it's like a countdown as well. That aspect is super cool. It feels very like you're going to this like it's like going to I think they said the mainland or the continent or something. So that looks cool. It looks like very like Parisian art inspired. Also the combat looks phenomenal. The active time in the combat reminded me of Legend of the Dragoon. Fun enough. I've heard other people compare it to Paper Mario. or
Yeah.
Mario RPG as far as that goes. I'm super into that. I'm loving what I saw from it.
It was like it's the turn-based combat, but then there are like action prompts
Yes.
in among the turn-based stuff. Yeah, the little bits we saw where it had, not nearly as animated as Persona, but it definitely had like echoes of the Persona 5 like style to the HUD in combat and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. As far as like the movement of stuff, when you're like going through the menu, very much super stylized. Very much feels like a Persona 5-esque stylized aspect of it. So
Yeah.
looks awesome. Feels like looks cool. I'm super interested in it. So keep an eye on that.
South of Midnight was another one that jumped out at me, and I was like, "Oh, this looks super cool."
So fucking cool.
So, like weird magical fish creature with a floating island on a giant gator, alongside seemingly like bayou kind of characters and whatnot. I was like, "Yeah, this looked really cool." I like the stop motion esque like animation style to it.
The cutscenes and yes, and then going into gameplay, and all of a sudden it's like super fluid gameplay. It's like, oh fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super into that. I love the idea. Like, this is definitely modern rural fantasy that they're playing with. It looks awesome as hell. I love the gator. It's like he mentions like the gator ran afoul of some churchgoers who tried to blow him with dynamite. And you're like, oh man, what did that do? And then we see what it did to the gator. He's missing the top of his snout. It's like, whoo boy, this looks good. This looks great. Yeah. I'm super into it.
Yep.
Also, that leads to like a freaking chase from the gator on the catfish. Like that's happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm so excited for that. Also, shout out to a magical catfish.
Sure. What do you have next?
Next up for me is, Metal Gear Solid Delta. Are you fucking kidding me? Did you see that?
I mean, as somebody who the only Metal Gear I've ever played was Metal Gear 5.
Means nothing to you. It meant everything to me.
I'm increasingly interested, and I've like wishlisted now to pick up the like Volume 1 collection to actually like, especially in this year where there hasn't been a ton that I'm eager to play. So a lot of my year so far has been like replaying old games or playing old games for the first time. Like shout out Yakuza 3 and 4, and it very much is like maybe instead of the, 6th or 7th run I'm doing of Baldur's Gate 3, yeah, maybe I'll jump in and check out Metal Gear Solid and kind of play through some of those early games to get ready for Delta, because, yeah, Delta looks cool.
Delta looks so fucking good. I'm so stoked. Metal Gear Solid 3 is I meme a lot by saying Metal Gear Solid Revengeance is my favorite Metal Gear, or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is my favorite Metal Gear game. I meme about that a lot because I do love that game. It's an incredible game. But in all honesty, Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite Metal Gear game. It is MGS3 is one of the best games ever created. I said canvas, but it's camo system, outfit system. The entire aspect of like health and stamina and food and survival aspects of that game are simple but powerful and awesome. It's so fucking great, and the story it tells is compelling and is it really is. If you want to ask Cameron, when did your your questioning of the American government and like authority start? I can singly point to Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and be like, this is when. Kojima created the man that sits before you today, who says ACAB in space and ACAB on Earth. 100% is like responsible for me questioning the American government. Is this game. This game and its story is, it is by far the most normal Kojima game as far as its narrative goes. It is the most compelling story that he tells as well, and it is sorrowful, and it is truly great. And it tells a beautiful story, and I love it to death. And it has one of the greatest it has one of the greatest moments of all time in gaming, which is the theme song playing as you're climbing up the like this like massive like well that you're climbing up, and it's just you're just climbing, and eventually it's like the song is playing and credits are like, it's very Kojima, but it is also just so definitively awesome. It is one of the best moments in that game, and it is also just one of the best games of all time. So Delta, looking the way it looks and seemingly playing the way that it's playing, speaks volumes to me and alleviates the kind of fear that I had after the Delta announcement trailer, which didn't look too Metal Gear Solid 3-ish. This is like, okay, no. I think they're nailing it. I think they're doing it. And honestly, don't give me anything new, Konami. I don't want anything new from the story from you. I don't want anything else. Just remake this game, make it look beautiful, and let me play it. Because I still have, like I never played Metal Gear Solid 5 because, Kojima was getting, like fucked over by Konami at the time. And
all right, well, that I was going to ask, like, where does this fall within Metal Gear Solid? Because that's the only one I've played, and I really enjoyed that one.
But from what I understand, gameplay-wise, that game fucking rules.
Gameplay, yeah, that's, like, gameplay-wise, it's a phenomenal game. Story-wise, it's a half-finished game, and, like, the, bonus, or the collector's edition, like, disc basically has, like, here's what the last mission would have been, but we ran out of time, we didn't make it, and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, there are some serious threads that just get completely dropped. But, yeah.
Well, I also know that because of like time constraints on that development on that game too, like entire characters get dropped from that game's narrative.
Yeah, that's
part of it. Yeah, yeah, no, and like it's very clear like Metal Gear Solid 5 was like the make or break it for Kojima and Konami, from all the reports that came out and everything. And it's like, when did things go bad? It's like during Metal Gear Solid 5 when Kojima said I need more time and Konami said fuck you, put it out the game.
I mean, yeah, well, Konami wants to make money and Kojima wants to make art. Is basically what that all boils down to.
Yep. And what do they do after Metal Gear Solid 5? And it was a super successful sell. Like the game sold super well. What did they do? Make pachinko games.
I mean, pachinko games, Metal Gear Survive, yeah.
Yeah.
And now Metal Gear Delta. So, yeah. Be interesting to see how this one shakes out. I will especially be curious since like how people who love the original will end up like comparing this to the original, and does it hold up? How does the remake play out? All that stuff.
The best case scenario is we get a Twin Snakes situation, which Twin Snakes was the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And is, in my opinion, the definitive way to play Metal Gear Solid 1. Because I think it fixes a lot of like kind of a couple of like issues that the original game had. Including like not including a first person shooting mode. It's all top down and like not as well to control. Twin Snakes fixes a lot of that and makes it, I think, a better game experience because of that. Also, an update in the graphics from PS1 to GameCube. Massive change and an update in those. And so Twin Snakes has a better graphical fidelity in the storytelling as well.
Fun fact, I had that game at one point, never opened it up, and ended up trading it in the era where I was like trading in all my games because I didn't play that game.
That game is so hard to track down these days.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Holy shit. And also like a GameCube to play it on is like both those things are expensive as hell.
Yeah. Well, like it was, I traded it in and the GameCube games that I wasn't playing because I could play the GameCube games that I kept. I could play them on my Wii. I didn't need the GameCube itself anymore. But yeah. Anyway, what do you have next on your docket?
Twin Snakes you can buy for $180.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Next on my list is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. Game looks cool. Game looks rad. You are apparently fighting something and like fighting a force, and there's cool gameplay elements with this like cool creature that apparently you're supposed to try to kill, but is now going to be your best friend. And they're probably going to tell a very compelling emotional story where these two characters learn to trust each other and end up becoming fastly forged friends. And probably like in one of them will die or something probably at the end of it and make me cry. Similar to at the end of Titanfall 2 where I fucking cried when this giant robot died.
Sure.
Probably that'll be the case. I'm looking forward to it. The gameplay looks sick as hell. So.
Titanfall 2 is what I was thinking about a lot when the Mecha Break stuff came out.
Oh, sure.
Especially in today's, not so much in the Summer Game Fest, but in today's showcase when they did the Mecha Break stuff, I was like reminded of how good the mech stuff was in Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2 is like the best kind of mech experience you have if you want that heavy mech feel to things. If you want your mechs to feel like every movement of your mech is poignant and important, that's what it does. So,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Titanfall 2 is still one of the best games of all time. So,
We have Perfect Dark. This reboot finally getting some gameplay stuff. And it looks like they're going, at least to some degree, Dishonored immersive sim-esque kind of stuff. Deus Ex, I guess, probably be the more sci-fi comparison.
it felt like between the two, right?
Yeah.
Didn't feel as it didn't feel as like, what's the word I'm looking for, like urban warfare-esque as Deus Ex feels, like, as far as, because you're this super fucking security guard in Deus Ex and you have like a bajillion weapons. It felt a bit more on the side of Dishonored as far as like limited equipment stuff, but tight ass gameplay. Like, gameplay looked awesome. This is the first time I've been interested in Perfect Dark since Perfect Dark on N64. I love the idea that it's much more of a spy aspect of it. I think that's also kind of like the more stealth aspect of it felt a bit more Dishonored too. But I love the idea of like you are getting involved in you think you're taking down like a terrorist threat, and then it devolves into something more, and like you get kind of caught up in this, and it looks like there's a lot of also like you don't know the full truth of it.
Yeah.
Felt a little like Agent 47's turn at the end of Hitman reboot.
I was gonna say it's like Mission Impossible kind of vibes.
Yes.
It's the the spy thriller, just general spy thriller.
Yeah,
vibe.
sci-fi spy thriller feels very, very good. And the shooting looks tight as hell. Also, the walking through immersive exploration of the city also looks great. Shout out to also like feeling a bit like Cyberpunk in the kind of like tech stuff as you're like interacting with the stuff going on around. I feel like that's also very Deus Ex as well, as far as like your infiltration stuff.
Yeah.
Felt really good. Sorry, I shouldn't say feel. I wasn't playing it. It looked really good.
Yeah.
It looked like it plays very tightly, which is good.
What do you have next?
Next, I have. I want to take a moment to talk about Diablo 4 DLC. I tweeted out about it earlier. I really want the Diablo 4 DLC to kind of address some stuff that I don't feel like it's going to. I just want to be like, hey, I understand the Diablo 4 stuff came out, and you probably expected Trevor and I to talk about it because it was in my top 10 of the year last year. But wasn't it? Trevor didn't make your top 10, did it?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, you had soured on it by the time Game of the Year.
Yeah, me actually doing a season of the gameplay was like, this actively made the game worse for me.
Yep. And my feeling about it, where you literally gave me that awesome H-Bomber guy note about my thing about it. This trailer was all about the story, and you could not have given me a worse reason to come back to Diablo 4 than to be like, don't you want to know what happens? Like, well, what if I do it? And then you're going to be like, but now play it again with a different class in the season. And it's like, but why would I? Is it just going to be the same thing with a different voice actor for my guy now? Like, this is really where it comes down to, is the gameplay in Diablo 4 is as best as Diablo's ever been. But is that a good enough reason to get somebody to come back and keep playing this game? And I don't know if it's going to be. I want to give the benefit of the doubt because I think that there is a lot of good stuff in Diablo 4. And I would love for this DLC to come out and be like, yeah, we heard like some of the issues that people had with the narrative of Diablo 4. We've heard the problems, like we've already addressed a lot of the season issues that people were having previously. Because I know a couple months ago, or a month ago, they came out with like an update that fixed a lot of problems that people had with the seasonal aspect of stuff. There's a new class they're doing. I'm super curious about that, but is it gonna be worth my goddamn time? And I don't know. Cinematic, like all Blizzard cinematics, look nice though.
Yeah. Very gruesome when we see the girl strung up and then her like arm splitting.
Oh,
in half
God,
and
that was
stuff.
so
It was like,
sick.
oh, good lord, God, yeah.
Yeah, for you that was awful. For me that was
Yeah,
awesome.
it was shout out to the thing they had at the top being like, this is going to include graphic content that may not be suitable for all audiences. And I was like, oh yeah, that was vile.
Oh, so when she cuts back and she's like, you know what, maybe I could use some help, and then it's like,
Yeah.
and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that was that guy's not going to be in good shape. And
Nope.
then it was just confirming that. Real quick before jumping into maybe Fable, I just want to give a nod to Age of Mythology Retold. I loved the Age of Mythology games when I was growing up.
I never played them.
Shout out to that kind of classic RTS making its way back. Basically, like you got to play as like the Greek gods, or it was like Age of Mythology, Zeus, or Age of Mythology, Norse kind of stuff. Yeah,
I know the expansions for Age of Mythology had the different gods. At any point, do you get to pick Hades? Is Hades one of the gods? Or would that just be OP, being the god of death?
I don't recall enough about the actual inner workings of Age of Mythology.
Hey, Trevor, answer my questions
This
about this
game I
watch.
played, and vaguely remember from 30 years ago. Sorry, nope.
Age of Mythology was always the game that I saw at Best Buy that I could never afford to buy because I was a kid, and my brother never bought it. So
Yeah. But yeah, then Fable. We got to see a little bit more new stuff with Fable.
giving us more of what that world's going to be like and what that it's going to feel like a little bit. Like, okay, we have this gal, we're telling her story, and this is we're hearing from her mentor. Basically, we get a look from her mentor at who she is, where he picked her up from, and then she shows up at the end and said, "Hey, motherfucker, she's here," and it's like, oh, okay, this will be fun.
Yeah. Definitely interested. I only ever played Fable 1 and 2. I never played 3.
Oh, 3 was great.
It's one of those that I occasionally see when I boot up Game Pass of maybe I should go back and go pick up that or boot that one up and play through it, or also just play through the old Fables.
I have played through all 3 Fables multiple times. The thing about Fable 3 is that it has a lot of your decisions can kind of come back in a weird way. Most expressively in the legacy weapons that you get. You have these legacy weapons that evolve depending on your gameplay style. For example, if you use a lot of magic, you might get a different kind of blade on it. If you use a lot of if you kill a lot of undead creatures, you might get a bone hilt on your gun or weapon. A lot of really cool stuff came from the Fable 3. I don't think it's better than Fable 2. As far as gameplay wise and story wise, Fable 2 just works better. But Fable 3 is a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, even Fable 1 and Fable 2, I barely remember because again, those are also I feel 20 years ago and
they are
stuff of those were games I played in college, which I'm so far removed, and they are they were games. They were the few games I played on the original Xbox alongside Knights of the Old Republic kind of thing, because I was an RPG guy, and so I had my PlayStation for the glut of my RPGs. But yeah, it was the I enjoyed the humor and the sensibility of those games, even if I couldn't tell you much about Albion itself, or the characters, or even the story of the. I remember the narrator giving me crap during tutorial sections and stuff like that. I remember that being the tongue-in-cheek humor of the game, being I like this. This is fun.
It was very Monty Python-esque.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing about 3 is that 3 was in development for such a long time. It was for the 360.
It's also people started getting tired of Peter Molyneux by that point.
That was the biggest issue, is that the promise of Fable 3 was never realized.
Yeah.
Because video games weren't at that point yet where Peter Molyneux's bullshit could come true.
Yeah.
And also Peter Molyneux was checking out of the studio at that time. He was trying to move on to other things. Fable 3 famously had a really rough end to its development. And it didn't really show in the final product, but the event of when are we going to get a new Fable, that had issues going forward.
Sure.
Because Peter Molyneux had left the studio.
I mean, even Fable as a brand for a while, like they were another one, much like BioWare. It was like, oh, they're gonna make a 4v1 asynchronous multiplayer kind of game when Evolve came out, and that was like the game mode that everybody was latching onto. And then Evolve failed miserably, and it was like, okay, we gotta abandon ship. There's no money here. We gotta not do this.
I don't even know if
Fable was one of those.
I don't know if their 4v1 mode ever came out.
It didn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's like
it got canceled.
That and the BioWare one, like.
Fable
they showed off trailers of them, and then they were canceled long before they ever came out.
Yeah, Fable 1, or not Fable 1. Fable also had the Kinect game that came out for it. That didn't do well either.
I mean, Connect.
Oh yeah. Inherently a rough thing. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I really hope that it's great. Once again, this is like a new development team. We have no idea what this is going to look like.
The fact that it's Playground, it's the people who make like the Horizon or the Forza Horizon games and stuff like that. I'm like, I mean, I don't know what you guys do action wise, but fucking Forza Horizon those games are among the best on the platform. So I'm here for it. Sure.
Hey, they're spreading their wings and branching out to a new type of game. I think we saw a couple of things that were like in-game stuff as far as like your interaction with NPCs.
Yeah.
Which means that game. I mean, it's for the Forza Horizon team. That game's gonna look beautiful as fuck. But yeah, like it looks really close to the cutscene quality of stuff, so I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah. What do you have next?
Winter Burrow.
Okay.
This game looks like a cozy, fun game. Reminds me also a little bit of the Dimension 20 season that we just had this last year of the Stoats.
Sure.
What is it? It was there.
Burrow's End.
Burrow's End. Yeah. So Winter Burrow, getting a little bit of that like mouse kind of like world feel of things. Looks cozy, looks fun, looks like it has a bit of like an adventure to it. So
I like the cozy vibes of the game, but it looked to me like it's going to be more of like a survival game, like a Don't Starve kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in that. I don't vibe with that.
Yeah.
Like seeing the like snow like crystals like closing in as your character seems to be getting like colder and colder, and you gotta find fire or whatever. I was like, I don't want to deal with like that stressful element of it.
That does speak to me though. I do like that idea that you're trying to build your burrow in winter means it's going to be a rough time for you, but it also looks like it's pretty cool. So.
Yeah. Next one I'm interested in, Mixtape.
Oh yes, hell yeah!
This especially
after your Goodbye Volcano High.
Goodbye Volcano High. The fact that this is from the Artful Escape team, which both me and Frank were super high on when that came out, and just the fact that this like just is screaming like 80s teen stuff. I mean, like we have like in the trailer we have direct homages to like Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
There's like the scene of like, hey, can I stand up? And like, standing in the car with fireworks going, perks from being a wallflower. It is like epitome coming of age kind of game, and like almost especially if it is as gameplay light as Artful Escape was. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here for it. Like, it looks like it's gonna be a great fucking time.
You can tell there's certain aspects, certain points where it's like, oh, they're high.
Sure, yeah.
They did drugs because they're like flying through a meadow, and it's like, I'm so here for that. You get like 3 skater kids in Northern California at the tail end of the 80s or early 90s because the music is like Smashing Pumpkins, and like fucking awesome music is in this thing. The fact that everything's on a CD. Like it's massive shout out to them like pulling like all the best vibes for that game. I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah. And cool animation style too.
Oh yeah.
Another like it had similar like stop motion-esque vibes, but a little less like claymation-esque compared to like the South of Midnight stuff. But yeah, I'm just like, this is gonna be a great time, and yeah, immediately like the Artful Escape cross Goodbye Volcano High vibes that was showing were just like, yes, absolutely here for it whenever it comes out. Then we got Life is Strange, specifically a like Max Caulfield sequel, Life is Strange by Deck 9.
The lack of Chloe tells me something about this.
Sure, yeah. And also like the fact that Max is going through pretty much identical trauma with another friend who, she's trying to stop a murder of. It's like, oh, man, it just rough breaks for you.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in this, especially given recent stories that were coming out about Deck Nine and like toxic stuff there. I'm hopeful that the people that were pushing for all of the great stuff that came in like True Colors, I hope those voices have won out at that studio. And
From what I've heard, that was the case. Because like Rebecca Valentine's story about that guy who was trying to put dog whistles in the game.
So the story was that there were dog whistles in the game. I don't think that the story identified like who it was. The story talks about those dog whistles in the game, and the story talks about a toxic like writer who is no longer with the studio. So yeah, hopefully that element is gone. But still also talks about like, well, other higher ups didn't really care that he was a toxic writer and were like very quick to try and bring him back and stuff. So
Yeah.
like the article was very much a like, well, I hope, and there was a hope among the developers that seemed to be spoken with that Deck Nine is in a better place, and and that this then unannounced Life is Strange game, now clearly this, will come out and have a good high quality to it and have something to say, but. Yeah, that's definitely like the thing that is going to be looming over this game, much like the Fulbright stuff was looming over Open Roads when I was playing that not too long ago. It's going to be and because even like reading that story against like my absolute love and adoration for Life is Strange True Colors was like that like wild that they had to fight so hard to make such a beautiful game. And so yeah, I hope they are winning that fight on their end, and I hope this comes out and it's going to be really interesting to see, because this will be like the first sequel that is following up on one of the existing characters, because obviously Life is Strange 2 went with a completely different route. Life is
With the
Strange True
brothers.
Colors, Before the Storm was prequel.
I couldn't touch Before the Storm because of the trauma that I faced after playing the original Life is Strange.
Sure.
This is my thing too. It's like I'm so curious. You chose to come back here. You chose to like touch on her story 10 years later. The game's going to be coming out 10 years later from the first game. This is one of the first games that ever broke me so badly that like I felt like Chloe was a real person and was like actually my friend, who like like spoilers for that game, I had to let die to save the world, and it broke my fucking heart into so many pieces. That the idea that they're like, yeah, by the way, we've chosen a canon ending, and it's that ending, and I'm like, how dare you fucking ask me to come back to this world? How fucking dare you? It looks great from the story. It looks like it's like an evolution of her powers, so to speak. Before, her time powers were like stepping. It looks like they're defining what her powers were, which was she wasn't time traveling so much as she was stepping through to other dimensions, which is kind of like you find that out late in the game, when her powers kind of go haywire, because she's stepping through realities and is bleeding things through too much, and so it becomes like a big like existential discussion of this whole concept of like, if you had the power to save people, could you, and what sacrifices would you make? And it looks like they're taking that in a different direction with this one, where she is like recognizing different dimensions and like is living between them, so to speak. And I'm super curious to see how this plays out, because you know how it ended the last time.
Yeah.
Max, why are you expecting it to end differently this time?
It's like, when you see another tornado coming, are you going to be like, oh no, what is that? I hope not.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, you can't do like storytelling wise, like in my mind, you can't do that again. So how are you going to make it different this time?
Yeah,
that is what's really intriguing me.
It's especially interesting because obviously Don't Nod made the original one, and then Deck Nine has kind of come in. They did Before the Storm. They did True Colors. So like them taking over the mantle of Max's story will be a very interesting flavor.
Especially because Don't Nod's become a very different studio since then. So
yeah. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle probably the next big one
Yes,
for us.
looks great. I'm a little like not concerned, but the gameplay aspect of that game looks a little rougher from those bits that we saw, which is weird because it looks rougher than when they debuted the gameplay originally. I don't know if it's just those quick vertical slices that we get in the trailer just didn't work because you're not seeing the full movement of the game. But I loved the story trailer bit that we got. I loved I wish that there was a bit more gameplay in that, but I loved the whole I'm digging this new companion for Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. She looks competent and I'm like, you're giving us out of all the companions of Indiana Jones, there's one that we definitely don't want another of. But she doesn't seem like that's it. So
yeah,
hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah. I wasn't bothered by the gameplay stuff we saw. I'm a little bit of the inverse. The extended story scene we saw, I was like, all right, I probably wouldn't be as bothered by this like enjoying it in the context of the game, but here it does feel a little slow. It feels like we're lingering on beats a little too long.
Okay.
And I'll be curious, especially it. It was almost like okay. Oh, she handed over the grenade, and so the grenade has exploded, and now this ship is collapsing or falling or something like that. And I was expecting that to turn more into an action set piece.
That was my concern as well. That didn't turn into
the
action
scene,
set piece.
It seems like it probably still will be turning into an action set piece. We just didn't there was just way more filler before we got to action set piece.
That's
we
fair.
got the chest and trying to fight off the the Nazis that are up there with you or whatever before the whole ship starts to go sliding down the mountain or something like that is what it seems like it's going to be. So it was just a weird snippet to pull in there for me, but I'm interested in how the full game turns out. It's going to be interesting. If there's one studio I want to be involved in, me as a protagonist killing Nazis, it's Machine Games. So,
100%.
Let me do that again, even if it's not in the Wolfenstein vein of things, but still getting to do that now as Indiana Jones. I'm here for it. Troy Baker's indie. I'm not it's going to be as good as it is. I think I've heard better sound-alikes, and so it's going to be weird hearing his voice but seeing Harrison Ford's face.
The weirdest thing is I can think of one person who I would have actually pegged for being Harrison Ford's person for this, and it's the guy who did the Joker in the Batman Enemy Within games. He notably he did an interview with Kind of Funny during that time, and he was like, yeah, no, I've actually worked with Harrison Ford before. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, you were in that movie with Blake Lively and everything. It's like, I saw that movie. He is really good in that, and also he does a fantastic Harrison Ford. I would have picked him, but we get Troy Baker, and honestly, I love Troy Baker. I'm glad that he's getting work, so why not? He's one of the best voice actors out there. But I do think there's a better sound alike.
Yeah, Anthony Ingruber.
Yes,
looks like is who you're referring to.
He would have been my first pick. So,
but yeah, it's gonna be an indie thing, and hopefully a solid Machine Games game at that. And still slated for this year. Didn't give us a date. There were a couple here where it was like this, and Avowed is probably the next game on my list. Where it was like, all right, I mean, we're halfway through 2024. I get not having a date, but
it's June, man. We should be getting some dates.
Maybe not a firm date, but
month?
You could give us a fall, or you could give us a winter 2024 or something like that.
I mean, we're in June at this point. I want at least a month window for it.
I mean, I did see an argument out there of Matt Piscatella, noted guy who used to do NPD, and he still does all that stuff. It's just not the NPD group anymore. I don't remember what they're labeled now. But he was basically well, everything's pretty much digital these days, so you don't need to put a date on it. You can just release, like, you can just put a date on it when you actually know a date. It's not going to affect, collector's edition pre-orders or anything like that. Like, you don't need to make the inventory, so you don't need the ramp up's time to do that. It's, hey, when you have a date, you get a date, and boom, it'll be on the storefronts at that point. It's like,
Yeah.
I get that, but it is like that needs to be communicated by somebody other than him is basically where I think that would need to really be like conveyed.
Sure.
Because otherwise it feels like maybe you don't think it's actually going to hit in 2024, and that's why you're not putting a more firm date on it. But anyway, speaking of Avowed, I'm still interested in where Obsidian goes with Avowed. I don't think I have a ton of new, like, it's one of those, like, it's going to be an Obsidian RPG.
Yeah.
I know enough to know that I'm probably going to have a good time with that. It's just a matter of let it when it actually comes out. Let me spend some time with it.
I would phrase it this way. I would be concerned that it's first person if they didn't show they can already do first person like adventure games, RPG games with Outer Worlds. Mm-hmm. So I trust that they know what they're doing. The gameplay looks cool. I love the idea that you're going to be able to take a real cool fantasy spin on kind of like whatever you're going to be doing, whether it's melee, magic, etc. I love what we're seeing from it. I love that they're taking this aspect of gameplay for it. After Outer Worlds, I completely trust them on this. I'm super into whatever they're doing with it. So,
yeah. What do you have next?
Next up, I have Wu Chang.
Okay.
Wu Chang looks cool from what we saw. I like the ideas behind it. I like the kind of like cinematic elements we saw from it. I'm looking forward to learning more about it as we get more from that game.
Yeah, Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. It didn't do anything for me because it's action. It's Soulsborne-y enough that I was just like, nope. Pass.
We're getting into Where Winds Meet and Ballad of Antara again territory. This is speaking to me, not speaking to you. Yeah. I get that.
Yep. Anything else? Because the only other one I really have is going to be the last one. Gears of War.
Yeah, it's the last one for me as well. Gears of War E-Day.
Are you going to check out Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Oh, I will. I didn't put that on here because I don't think I put it on here because I'm really looking forward to that from the Ubisoft one. What they showed looks great, but honestly, at this point, you've already sold me on it. Show me gameplay.
Yeah,
give me gameplay.
For me, it's as much like especially off of Star Wars Outlaws, that will probably be my like Ubisoft checklist game of the year this year. I don't know if I'm going to immediately want to jump from that into an Assassin's Creed, especially because with Odyssey and then Valhalla, which I played both of those and platinumed both of those, but also got, actually I don't know if I platinumed Odyssey, but I played and beat Odyssey, but got very, very burnt out on Valhalla, just because of just how fucking dense it was. And to platinum that one, you pretty much had to do everything in that one.
Yeah. Not only that, but you're also stuck because it was like locked out for you.
Yeah, I basically dealt with some bugs and couldn't get a couple of those trophies until like months after release, until they were like patched and fixed. But yeah, now looking to see, did I actually get the platinum for? Oh, I did get the platinum for Odyssey.
I thought you did, yeah.
Yet I only have a B rank in PSN profiles on it because I didn't go back and do like the 40 some odd DLC trophies.
Yeah, that was another thing too. Is that the DLC packs that came? There was like 6 of those for Odyssey.
7.
7. Jesus. Yeah. I thought I was over exaggerating. I thought there was like 3.
Yep.
And I was like, I'll over exaggerate and say 6 to make it sound like a lot. And it turns out that was not even the full amount.
It's like DLC Trophy Pack 5, 6, and 7 are The Fate of Atlantis, Episode 1, Episode 2, and Episode 3. So it was like, it was 3, because the, 2, 3, and 4 are Legacy of the First Blade, Episode 1, 2, and 3. So it was like 3 things, but it like 2 of them were like multi-chapter DLC things.
Yeah, I remember that.
Anyway,
that was kind of annoyed me. I was like, don't do that.
That's so like that happened, which meant I had zero interest in jumping into Mirage, and so it'll very much be like maybe I'll be interested to jump into Shadows, but also I might just hold out and be like, I'll just wait until Ghost of Tsushima 2 comes out.
That's fair. For me, it was I didn't play Mirage because I didn't have the money to play Mirage at the time. I didn't buy it because I couldn't afford it. Here's the thing: Outlaws and Assassin's Creed are two such different kinds of games for me, and I don't play checklist games very often. You play more checklist games than I do. And I also notably don't care if I really finish some checklists.
Sure.
I'm not looking to platinum a Ubisoft game. That's never been my intention ever in my life. I enjoy playing them. I enjoy doing them. But like, also like, I didn't pick up Far Cry 5. I didn't like. I did pick up Far Cry 5. I haven't played Far Cry 6.
I started Far Cry 6 on Xbox, and I got a little bit way through it, and then I got to like some mission where I just couldn't fucking get through the mission. I was like, all right, fuck this game, I'm done, and uninstalled it and and bounced off.
There you go. Yeah, I haven't played a checklist game like that in a really long time. So I'm probably up for 2 of them this year. We'll see.
Yeah, there you go.
And they also come out far after Dawn Trail's out, so I'll have plenty of time to beat through Dawn Trail.
Sure. And that's, I mean, like, for me, it was as much there wasn't anything else that I was, like, interested in jumping into, so the checklist games for Valhalla, like, were tiding me over, and it was, okay, here's a new thing I can do in this game. Cool, let me go and do that. Let me go find all these things. Let me 100% this area kind of stuff of, like that is, I'm enough of that kind of player. But yeah, Lego, maybe Horizon Lego Adventures will also, be that kind of thing for me. So, that's another one that I like. The Lego games, especially, I 100% a ton of those, and there is a ton of bullshit to 100% a lot of those ones. So, yeah. But yeah, then we got, unless you have anything else, Gears of War E-Day.
Yeah. Cool.
Where you fall on the Gears of War? Do you have any like connection to that franchise?
I don't have a deep connection to that. I've played a good chunk of Gears of War 2. I'm not the biggest Gears of War fan, but I like that Gears of War, it's one of those things that it's like, it's not really like the game for me, but I like that it exists. And I know I have friends who are massive fans of it. I love that it has like what it's done for the industry. Like people will never forget the Mad World trailer, like that elevated trailers to a new level in game trailers. Like there is so much that Gears of War has done for the industry that I would love to see like with how received 5 and 4 and 5 were by people. I would love to see like E-Day be like like that idea of like you're playing a young Marcus Phoenix, a young Dom, a young crew, so to speak. I would love to kind of see that happen. I'm of the mind like after Gears of War 3, I felt like the story was good. We didn't need to keep going after that. I think that this would be a great way to kick off like that, and then also kind of like bring up like remastered versions of 1, 2, and 3 to kind of be like, this is now the Marcus Phoenix collection.
People keep saying that, like, they did a remaster of 1 already. That's what I first played.
Oh, there you go.
Like Xbox One did a Gears of War remastered, which was the first game, and then it was like, and with Game Pass you can play Gears 2, 3, 4, and so that's what got me into it. Was I played Gears of War the remaster. My biggest issue with the Gears of War games is I hate how heavy everything feels.
That's my big thing.
Slow and sluggish that combat is, especially compared to like a Call of Duty or a Titanfall. Because that was like I basically played it around the same time as I was playing Titanfall 2, and I was like, one of these things is way better.
That's also been my thing. As a cover shooter goes, I need my cover shooters to be quick paced because I don't like hanging behind a pillar for 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's just always been my thing. I've never been a big fan of cover shooters. The only cover shooter I ever really attached myself to was The Division. The Division as a series, as a franchise, the RPG elements of it made it work for me. And also like the different tools and kits and stuff that you use in The Division works for me. I never got that feeling from Gears of War, so I was never too into it. But yeah, like I said, I know what it's done for the industry, and I know people love it, and I would love for it to do well.
Yeah. So I played Gears Remastered. I'm pretty sure I played Gears 2 and 3, but I remember almost nothing about like the story stuff because I was just largely just playing them to play through them probably. And same with 4 and 5. Like I like don't I remember playing those ones, don't remember a ton of the story. Gears 5 in particular was an interesting one because they leaned way more into like open world elements and like you can do these missions in, any order kind of thing. And it was like, okay, like it did the thing that was like Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy, where you might not have those. As
I
a
have no
reference.
touchdowns for those. We're good.
So like Uncharted 4 famously is like you go to Madagascar and there's like this big open world area where you're like on a Jeep and you're going and investigating. You can kind of investigate different towers in any order of things. Lost Legacy had a similar kind of section where it was like, okay, here's an open chapter of the game where you can kind of explore it at your own leisure and go, each different route, and it's not going to, drastically impact the order of events. And so Gears 5 had that kind of thing in a couple different places where it was like, okay, here's a big, snow area or something where you're out on the lake and you can go to this camp first, or you can go to this. You're going to eventually have to do all three, but you can do them in whatever order you want to do them kind of thing. It was a different approach. The bigger thing and the thing where I'm like, it makes sense to me that they're going back instead of going forward right now is the biggest thing was Gears of War 5 ended and you had to make like a choice between like two of these characters. Which one are you going to save? And one character just straight up dies based on like your decision kind of thing. And so it's like, well, making Gears of War 6, you now have to account for, both of those stories or whatever. And it's going to be some kind of like, a very half-assed version of a Mass Effect or a, Dragon Age thing of like, which ending did you choose? And, we'll go from there kind of thing. Or they'll come up with, here's the canon ending that we're going with. And you kind of move forward.
You kind of have to do it at that point, right?
I don't know. And so the fact that they are going back and doing a prequel means they don't have to make that decision yet.
There you go.
To, determine where they're going forward with that story. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's if I'm subscribed to Game Pass, this is definitely I'll play it when it comes out. And probably, once again, hate how heavy all these characters feel, hate how Marcus feels. But I like John DiMaggio, so
Yeah.
I'll enjoy his performance, I'm sure, as Marcus. And I like the idea of going back to like the beginning of this war versus coming in kind of in medias res in the first Gears of War, where like, all right, yeah, they've been fighting this war for a while, going back this far and like everything, encountering everything, quote unquote, for the first time. It's like, oh, that's an interesting place in the time in the story to set this stuff.
Yeah. I also like the idea that you're going to get a like unprepared.
Sure. I hope it's not just the soloifying of like, and here's how we made the Lancers.
Well, no, because he has a Lancer in the trailer that they showed.
No, he doesn't. He has a bayonet. Like the gun has a bayonet and gun. Like it has a knife on it, but
I thought it had a chainsaw on it.
It is no, it is not the classic.
It's a knife. Okay.
Yeah, it is not the classic Lancer.
Then you'll probably have a mission where you're putting together the first Lancer.
That is the concern I would have with like this E-Day one.
Or maybe
like,
in like
there are going to be moments like that where it's like, oh, here's a thing that's like, foreshadowing what's going to happen in, Gears 1, Gears 2, or Gears 3. Yeah. Where it'll be like, Marcus meeting Baird for the first time and, oh, that guy sucks or whatever. And yeah, whatever, vibes we're going to get from that kind of stuff. But, yeah, still be interesting.
For sure. If it brings people in or it like revitalizes it, I think that's great. I think that it is a franchise that it has a legacy that is well beloved for good reasons. So
yeah. Well, that ran almost 2.5 hours, so I'm actually good to call the episode there if you don't want, and we don't need to worry about diving into Dredge and Dave the Diver.
Sure, let's save that for next week, maybe.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, talking all sorts of other video games gave us plenty of fodder this week. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up there. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk all these fun things. Let's go around the metaphorical table / actual tables with any plugs we have. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, we just recorded that D Plus show earlier this week, where we went and talked about The Acolyte, the new Star Wars series on Disney Plus. We had a lot to talk about there and how much we both enjoyed it. So if you want to hear our thoughts about that, go check that out.
Indeed. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. And I will echo that. This week, I believe we're going to talk about Inside Out in honor of Inside Out 2 coming to theaters shortly. So that'll probably be this week's That D Plus show. So stay tuned for that. And stay tuned especially for the episode a few weeks from now when we ultimately do our Doctor Who episode, because I know we're going to have lots of thoughts on that after. Shout out, go watch the Rogue episode of Doctor Who, because that was fucking great.
It was amazing.
You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you like what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.